boogers.
And it's the no-sucking edition of the Lounge. 249 mock draft. 9th year in a row, for Christ's sake. 2010 was the first. 2018 is the latest. Marcus Traxler is here. Charlie Hildebrand is here. The no-sucker himself soon, hopefully expected to show, since 4 times 8 works out well for the draft. Schottenkirk gives his condolences to the Bush family, covering that down there in Texas this week.
We're supposed to, I mean, considering that Stacken's the one who cares about this more than anybody, he better be the one that's here. So,
yes, I believe he will. I haven't gotten my text. I think he'll probably be here. Other news before the NFL draft, the playoffs this year. On the basketball side, I thought last year was atrocious, with Cleveland and Golden State killing everybody. This year, I think, has been very good. Marcus, this is one of the best playoffs I've seen in many a year on the NBA side, I think.
Numerous years.
Numerous.
I think it's been an entertaining playoffs. I've enjoyed the Pacers, Cavs. I've enjoyed Sixers and the Heat. I enjoyed, even though it was only a 4-game series, the Pelicans just taking it to the frauds that are the Portland jailbreakers. So I thought that that's been good. Obviously, the Timberwolves, a hometown team, fared well in Game 3.
Should be up 2-1. Should be up 2-1.
Could be. I still. I mean, that game could have gone to overtime, and they probably would have still lost by 10. But it's good. It's good that we've got some basketball that's been worth watching. And I've been thoroughly entertained.
I agree that it's been good up to now, but I think we will ultimately look back on it and basically how we remember playoffs. I think we'll just be by the conference finals and then the NBA finals. And if those 3 are good, or 2 of the 3 are good, we'll look back positively, as opposed to if there's a bunch of great first round games and then it's mediocre after that.
We certainly have the chance for a dud NBA finals, but I do want to see Philadelphia. I'd be fine with seeing Cleveland, just because LeBron's going to have to do it by himself. But other than that, the East is probably not going to have a team that's worth representing in the finals.
What if we get a Boston-Oklahoma City finals?
Wouldn't be fun. Wouldn't be much fun.
I agree. It wouldn't be fun, but it would be surprising.
Cleveland, they got a very important game tonight, it would seem. If they lose, they're down 3-1 against Indiana. I would think Cleveland would win tonight, and I think Cleveland might win the rest of the games in this series. Do you think Indiana can push them to 7? Do you think Cleveland does it tonight? Because it's become obvious. Everybody else needs to play better. Kevin Love up on down the list here, because Indiana hasn't scored a boatload of points, but Cleveland has scored less. So that's how they're losing these games here. They're scoring 90 points, and Cleveland's offense has not been an issue. Their defense throughout the year has. Now it's the reverse this last week. I mean, LeBron, he's got to have seemingly a great game every game, or else they're not going to win.
Well, that's why I think this series very well could go 7 games. And I mean, I don't think at this stage you can rule out the fact that Indiana beats them. I mean, yeah, it's just I think they've gotten to this point. It has not been a very impressive showing through 3 games for Cleveland. I like LeBron, but the rest of this team is just bad. It's not helping them out much. Kevin Love, I get annoyed when I hear his name because somebody mentioned, how he was, really good interior player when he was with the Wolves, and you just don't see him operating on the block very much anymore. I think that sucks. So I don't know what's going to happen. I would agree with you. I would tend to think that Cleveland will figure it out enough to win this series, and I wouldn't dispute your claim of maybe winning the next 3 games, but man, they just, I don't know.
Go up. Show the fuck up.
Well, they got to figure some things out, but I don't feel confident that they're going to do that. They could win this series and not have it figured out. I don't know.
Like they go on this run, they're dominating game 2. They're up 17 points. Looks like they're going to win, and then they just get pantsed by 30 points the rest of the way.
Mhm.
It wasn't even close in that second half. They got their offense struggled to score 30 points. Charlie, they traded their entire team away for a new team at the end of February there. And they got all these younger guys, and the first couple games were good, and they went on a little bit of a run. It appears that they're completely lost. They don't know what the hell's going on. And then everybody they got rid of, all these old guys are having great series like Derrick Rose and Dwayne Wade. And you got guys like Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance who never even sniffed the goddamn playoffs. And they're being depended on to be guys. So part of the intrigue of the playoffs is that the East is open, it would appear, with Philadelphia. Everybody likes Philadelphia, and they're fun to watch. Does this, I mean, regardless of what happens with this series, I mean, do you think, I don't think LeBron comes back because it's such, they already got rid of the entire roster. It's just so garbage right now.
You can't tell me that trading Kyrie Irving made any sense. I'm not gonna buy that. And whatever disputes they had between LeBron and him surely could have been worked out. And I realize that obviously Irving is not playing; he's hurt. But man,
maybe if he was in Cleveland though, he wouldn't have got hurt.
That's true. You never know.
But yeah, I think LeBron's going to leave Cleveland after this year. I don't know why. I get the sense, kind of like that Celtics team that won the title with Paul Pierce and Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett, that I think they won like every game in every series, went 7, and then they won the title. I think that's what the Cavs are going to do, but they're going to lose in the NBA Finals, and it will not go 7.
If you're a Cavs fan, I think if you honestly look at the situation, you couldn't be mad at LeBron if he leaves this summer. I mean, they're not the team he has around him, whether that's LeBron's fault or not. If he's
because he is the GM.
He is the GM. So I certainly understand that aspect of it too, but I just think you can't expect him to stay with what they've got going on right now.
Is it too mean to Cleveland to suggest that it's essentially like they're a AA or AAA baseball team and their guy's just good enough to be like, no, he's going somewhere better now, and you should just enjoy the good times you had instead of clamoring for him to come back?
Well, they wanted him to bring him a title, and he did it. So I don't know what more they could really want.
Because if he leaves, would Kevin Love stay? Would they move him? Would they just tear everything down again?
Tear it all down, I'd say.
Do you bring in some? Because LeBron's never – Kevin Love, I guess, is the one guy that he has brought in because LeBron's always went somewhere else where they've already had Kyrie Irving and a #1 pick. They've had Dwayne Wade, and they brought Chris Bosh along with them. He goes somewhere instead of, them bringing in a guy, whoever that guy may be, pick a name. And it would seem Philadelphia is at the logical top of the list because they're in the East and they have young talent that doesn't cost a ton right now. A lot of people like Philadelphia. I think if Cleveland doesn't come out of the East, and I give them an 80% chance to get out of the East, I would say Philadelphia is that other team. Are people too heavy on Philadelphia right now? We're calling them like the Orlando Magic of the mid-'90s and all of this stuff.
The people's champ of the East?
Yes. I'm all in on Philadelphia, but let's have them win this series first. I mean, Game 3 was a one-possession game. They lost one at home. And then we'll get it to New Orleans in a bit. But, I mean, they're one Embiid injury likely away from, and the guy's going to break down at some point. So how much can you put your apples and your produce in this basket of Philadelphia when their best player, obviously, gets hurt seemingly once a month? Very risky.
I would agree. I mean, they are now up 3-1 in this series, so it looks like they will probably escape with the series victory. But it has not always been convincing in this series. They are a fun team to watch. I'll give them that. Embiid with his busted ass face and wearing his mask and then taking it off and asking for more nerve damage. That's cool.
Just keep. What a stupid idiot. Keep your stupid fucking mask on, please.
Rip Hamilton style, like even if you don't need it, just keep it on because you play better that way.
Keep it on for 5 years. I needed it for a month. It's on for 5 years.
Ben Simmons is a fun player to watch. We had our arguments about what sort of player he is. I think
you like him.
I would agree that when he develops a more consistent jump shot, he's going to be even more dangerous. But he's pretty damn good right now too. So he's exciting to watch. And I think Philadelphia is in a position where they certainly could put a run together, right? Because they would face who would they face?
Boston.
Well, and Boston is not. This is a 2-1 series, but they're
good series.
It's not they're not as nearly as convincing as they would have been a few months ago with Kyrie, or obviously at the beginning of the season when they expected to have Gordon Hayward as well.
Early.
Yes.
Drew Amon, if you could speak for Amon or on behalf of Amon or whatever the hell we're doing here. He likes New Orleans a lot. He likes them to give the Warriors a series. I'll generously give the Pelicans 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the hell out of Portland, and nobody saw that coming. Not even winning the series, but just beating the hell out of them each and every game. So that was awfully impressive. I don't know how they beat Golden State though. I mean that's another couple levels up here. We're going all Madden level. We're playing on. We're jumping up a bit here.
It's Echoes. Texas is back.
Oh, Texas. Get him in the game, Texas. How's Texas now? Good Texas? Good?
It's still there.
Still there. Plug it in. How about that?
Just in case, I also unplugged and replugged in my headphones, so that seemed to work. To me, it's kind of like the equivalent of being like 3 strokes back in golf with 5 holes left. That's how I feel with the Pelicans against the Warriors. It's like, can they win? Yeah, but they're going to have to play almost perfectly. I think one thing they've got going for them, and I don't mean like matchup or stylistically, is that Golden State has won the Western Conference 3 straight years or 4 straight years. I think 3
in a row, and they have won 18, possibly at the end of this afternoon, 19 straight playoff games against the West. 19.
And it's just that, like in any sport, you start talking about winning your entire conference and playing, whether it's the Super Bowl, the World Series, whatever. It is incredibly difficult to do that 3 years in a row, and then would now be 4 years in a row. So while certainly I feel like Golden State's going to beat New Orleans, like part of me is just thinking like we so rarely see sustained success at that high level consecutively without like, oh yeah, there were these 2 years where they weren't as good and then they were good again.
I'm looking. This Twins game is on ESPN Plus.
Are you a subscriber?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it shows there that it is. So is this part of the Fox Disney deal?
I think it's right. I think at this point it's 1 game a day. Maybe your MLB TV game of the day that is on there.
But also Fox Sports Go is free.
Fox Sports Go is only free if you've got a cable subscription.
Yeah, and obviously we do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting there. And Sacken just bailed.
Oh my God, Sacken
bailed on the deal right there. So NBA playoffs have been good. The hockey rolls on. There he is. Is he here? Blue.
I want to speak the praises of one big dick, Rick Rubio. He was terrific last night in Game 3 for the Utah Jazz, hitting 3-pointers, making the plays. Ricky Rubio also in the playoffs for the first time. Very happy for my man, Rick.
Stacking?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Terrific.
Noah really enjoyed your stat on the Warriors about to win 19 straight.
19, for Christ's sake. 19.
Yes.
Right.
Golden State has never lost to the West in his lifetime in the playoffs.
True. That's very true.
How was your nose recovered from the massive just assault?
Trauma. It was a trauma.
He was hungry.
hungry.
Fortunately, we have a reconstructive plastic surgeon on hand, and they were able to restore what do they call that? Not a genioplasty, but
rhinoplasty.
Rhinoplasty. Thank you.
Thank you, South Park. That's the only reason I know that.
A lot of people seem to like Rick. A lot of people don't like to see like Jeff.
But Jeff, all in all, Jeff played well last night. But
I look at their season stats, Marcus, and they're the same.
Speak it to me.
No, I told you they are the same. Teague has 7 assists. Rubio is completely dropped off the map with his assists basically cut in half for whatever reason.
They want him to score.
But he's not. Everything else is the same. He's like both 13 points a game. Teague is at 14. Rubio's a couple notches better shooting free throws and threes. Teague makes and shoots more threes. So production-wise, the points, the assists, the rebounds, they're the exact same players. I want more of it.
Yeah, he just is a huge.
Once we get to some bullshit picks here, once we get some garbage selections here, you can go nuts. So I mean, why do people think one's completely better when, like, Rubio is not, like, again, I've said this before, I'll say it once again. Like, we know what he is.
We do.
Like, he's reached his peak. He has reached his prime. We know what he is, and he is a decent starting point guard. You're at your 13 points, 7 assists now, 5 rebounds.
The Mike Bibby of point guards.
Sure, completely fine. Is he in the top 5 or 10 or anything? No, he's a good guy.
He was not an offensive threat for the Wolves. He is one now. That's why you have Jeff Teague. My thing with Teague is really twofold. He played well in Game 3. I'll give him that, and he's done okay in spots for this team. But too much ISO ball with him and Crawford and whatever else. Sometimes Jimmy Butler. That's not always ideal either. And then he had an inexplicable foul on, I think it was Harden last night, on a three-pointer. That's what made me write in the chat, bleep Jeff Teague. So that drives me nuts because that was completely unnecessary. He just gave 3 points to – I think Harden actually missed one of the free throws, but man alive, that drives me nuts. Stop fouling three-point shooters, God damn it. Ugh.
I foresee the Timberwolves succumbing to the same painful death.
Stacking, you have to call them the Timber Puppies the first time. That's your brand.
Well, no, they're in the playoffs, so I think they've won it.
Okay,
so
fair point.
They're back to the
They're
Wolves.
the worst of the playoff teams. What an accomplishment for them.
I don't think that's entirely fair.
They could beat Washington in a 7-game.
Well, that is fair. That is what the deal is.
That's accurate assessment, I guess.
They'd be winning the East right now.
Sure.
What I was going to say though is that the Timberwolves, like the Wild, close in Game 1 of their series, probably should have won it. Got smoked in Game 2, won Game 3 fairly convincingly. So I expect the Timberwolves, like the Wild, to lose in Game 4 and then get blown out in Game 5.
Seems about right.
Derrick Rose, should he be on this team next year?
No. Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
If they go for the veteran minimum, yeah, but I don't want him paying $6 million a year.
3 years for 90. 3 for 90. Who says no?
Max contract? You don't want to give Derrick Rose a max contract?
MVP. He won the MVP stack in 5-6 years ago.
He did.
He says he's back. He says he is back.
He had that game-winning shot against Cleveland in the playoffs a few years ago. That was great.
I think Kawhi Leonard went to the Derrick Rose School of Injury Rehab.
Wow, that's a shot. It's a shot to Rose. Unfair to Rose, I would say. Unfair to Rose. That's what I think. The hockey, the Wild, they were an embarrassment. That was an embarrassing performance.
Yep.
All around.
Yep.
Colorado still kicking. Still kicking.
Getting it done. Absolutely stole Game 5.
The Illadelph as well, still kicking around.
Mm-hmm.
What are we looking forward to? Vegas, they got
the Sharks.
What do we need to know? Pittsburgh's going to close it out. Nashville's closing it out.
Boston will close it out.
Washington will close it out.
Really, no upset stack. And no, your Washington squad's squeaking by because they suck. Really, no upsets this year.
Well, we need the Capitals to advance so they can lose in the most painful way possible, right? Isn't that how that works?
Yeah,
well, they very well could lose the Penguins in the next round, and that'd be.
But they can lose this series yet.
They can. They certainly can.
Was it every game's been overtime? 4 of the 5 have been overtime?
4 of the 5, yep.
I mean, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Any hockey thoughts? All we have your 5 seconds of hockey.
You have the Sharks. They upset the Ducks.
They killed them.
That's a mild upset.
That was a Blazers Pelicans series of the NHL.
The thing about like Blazers Pelicans, there's like 1 game separating them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like the first time the Sixers swept a 3 in a 7-game series, but then also the 6 usually isn't a 48-win team when the 3 isn't usually a 49-win team.
Yep.
So everybody picked Portland to win, but good for the Pelicans.
I would like to say about the Wild that they are a bad team.
They're not good
at this stage in the playoffs, and they should consider. They would like to blow it up. They probably can't blow it up.
They're in no man's land.
They are in no man's land. It's not a good spot to be.
It's not great. Charlie, are we ready here?
My only hockey thought is what would happen if they made it legal to do the knuckle puck from Mighty Ducks 2.
Oh, it's legal. It's legal.
It's legal. It's just fictional, and the puck doesn't actually go that way.
Oh, the knuckle
like that. I know, because as a kid, I watched that movie and would all the time flip a hockey puck up like that because I had a little tiny one, and it never did what it did in the movie. Thanks a lot for lying to me, Mighty Ducks.
Should we still got the barbecue money?
Get it.
Some, not as much as we used to.
Should we convert that into fine cheeses?
That's not a bad idea, because if the cheese goes bad, you just smell it as stinky, smelly cheese for more money then.
The worse the cheese is, the more it costs.
Exactly.
A Google Excel sheet has been up on this. We've been doing this for many a year, stacking. What was it? Last year you got like something like 8 or 10 right. Phil Hughes, what a shit pitcher. Phil
Good
Hughes.
job, Phil. Way to go.
Get this stupid ass out of here. What was it? Last year you got 8 or 10 right? Year, 2 years ago?
He's dead, folks. He's dead.
We can't hear you. Yeah, he died. So stacking, 2 years ago, apparently got a shit ton right. Hello?
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 I have the first pick. Charlie, I am more excited about this draft than past years because of the uncertainty at the top.
Hello.
I think that's fair. It makes it more interesting. And it's also interesting to say, like, I don't know. I'm oversimplifying this, but I think to varying degrees, we are probably all in agreement on this, that somebody's going to draft Josh Allen, and we're just going to be like, well, that head coach and that GM are going to be fired 3 years from today-ish, because that's just how it's going to work. It's going to be so bad for them.
I believe it was 2 years ago, Crins, that I had the
big. What are 8 of them? 10 of them?
I think it was 8. Yep, 8.
Last year, group we had 6 out of the 32, and I will say I think we're going to be challenged to get there again this year. So,
was it the 2 years ago when Stacking got a bunch right that while we were doing it, we were all making fun of them for making such terrible picks, and then they ended up
one of them, like Brandon Weed in what 2011?
Yeah, that was the. That was
Picked
that.
Brandon Whedon with like the 22nd pick, and they're like, you bastard. And that's what happened. And well, you got Ezekiel Elliott. Do you have one this year? You usually get them right?
No,
I don't know if there's.
No, not really. I have asked Mel Kiper to make an appearance on the on this chat, so we'll see when he wants to come about. But
to announce his retirement because he got that Jimmy Clausen thing wrong, so he's got to retire now.
Yeah, I don't think so. You know what?
This is the year.
I think we're going to see 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. I really do.
That's too bad.
I have 4. 1, 2, 3, 5. I have 5, I guess. Lamar Jackson be the 6th.
I think that's
Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph would be the 6th. You know, you have Lamar Jackson, Mayfield, Allen, Rosen, and Darnold.
I saw somebody had Mason Rudolph down to go number 12. So.
Sackett and I will do a thing of our own on the Block podcast.
Yep.
We talk about it every year, Charlie. There's got to be a better way to know who's good and who's not. These are all humans. Especially
as far as we know, they're all humans.
How do you know Josh Allen is not a human?
Yeah, he's just garbage. There's got to be a better way, especially when you're in the top 10 and can pretty much pick anybody you want or one of your top couple of guys. Because, let's say you're Tampa Bay at 7. You don't need a quarterback, and there might be 3 or 4 quarterbacks taken before you. So, honestly, Tampa Bay at 7 should probably get one of their top 3 or 4 guys.
They should.
If they're one of your top 5 guys, they should be pretty good.
Agreed. Outside of, there's some guys who get injured and just aren't the same after injuries. Like outside of that, I agree that if you're picking in the top 10 more or less, like you should be able to get someone. I'll even give you the benefit of the doubt, and we'll push quarterbacks aside. If you're drafting someone who's not a quarterback because you don't need one, like you should get someone who, at minimum, you're like, oh yeah, that guy maybe wasn't as good as what he was drafted, but yeah, he was fine for like 7 years. Like you should get a 5 or 6 year starter who's at least around the top half at his position. Like that should be the absolute bare minimum.
Someone who earns a second contract would be nice.
Yeah.
Preferable, and be a starter and be above average. So
I mean, like he underwhelmed based off where he was drafted, and he played for a bunch of different teams. It wasn't all for New Orleans. But I feel like Reggie Bush, that should be like your minimum of like, yeah, you should at least be this guy who does some stuff. And when people talk about getting rid of you, you're like, well, I don't know. He does some stuff. Maybe we should keep him.
Like he was for sure a disappointment, at number 2. And he never came close to what he was. But, he's more a receiver than a running back. And he was fine and he played a long time. So that is a guy. So you look at a guy, you see, okay, what does he do well? What do we like to do on offense and defense? So does that fit what we want to do? And the things that he doesn't do well, can we correct those? Can we hide those? Can we improve on those things? So when I look at a guy from Wyoming who's a tall guy who can throw it far, who has a great arm, but he can't complete passes, that looks to me like a guy that can throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, but he can't throw strikes. And if not throwing strikes, it doesn't really matter how hard he can throw. There's no need to swing at the pitches.
Not only can he not throw strikes, he does not have any other pitch besides a fastball either.
Or a home run hitter who all he can do is hit home runs, but he can't even hit 150. So he's got one skill that's not very important in the grand scheme of things when he can't do anything else. So with that, I have the first pick. I'm picking Sam Darnold to go to the Cleveland Browns. A lot of steam, I suppose, on Josh Allen to go here. That would be hilarious. I would love
That would be the most Browns thing.
God, how great would that be? How great would that be if these idiots would pick this guy?
I don't know about you guys. I feel like there's always one team that is doing poorly, and it's kind of fun to pile on them and make them feel dumb and stupid.
But
And the Raiders aren't that anymore, and it just feels like the Browns are that. And whenever they do something dumb, it's almost like it validates, like, oh, yeah, that's right. You are the worst. So no matter how bad anyone else is, they're at least not you, Cleveland.
Can we say they are the worst, though, given what they've done in free agency this year with the moves? And Dorsey seems like he's a reputable source, or like his resume is a lot better than, Sashi Brown or any one of these other guys that they've brought in.
Tyrod Taylor is better.
Jarvis Landry, good.
I don't know if I'd give him $15 million. That seems a bit extreme. So Sam Darnold, I don't know if he's going to be any good. Like if he was a similar redhead like Andy Dalton, I suppose you would take that because the bar is so low for Cleveland. So if he could be Andy Dalton, I guess that'd be fine.
I don't want to go too deep on this because we've only done one pick. But I think it's kind of funny that, like, Josh Allen has been so polarizing and is viewed so negatively that all these other quarterbacks who clearly have flaws of their own, and none of them are sure things either, are almost like skating by in the court of public opinion because everyone's just like, well, Josh Allen's so bad, he's better than this guy.
Yeah, you don't hear a lot about, you haven't heard a lot about the other guys. So with that,
I think you hear a lot about Josh Rosen, but I agree. I think Sam Darnold is probably the best quarterback in this draft. However, I think he should have come back. He did not overwhelmingly impress last year.
A lot of turnovers.
Yeah.
So that's there.
He probably did more so than a couple of the other quarterbacks who are going to be taken in the first round, though.
Yes. Yep.
We go to Mr. Stacken with the Giants. The Giants have their pick of the field here.
Yeah. Well, and I think the Giants and the Broncos are the two teams in this draft that could completely flip any mock prediction. Because with the Giants, I think you could definitely see them go quarterback and get a successor to Eli Manning. I think you could go defensive end here, Bradley Chubb, since JPP got shipped to Tampa. I think you could go Saquon Barkley to really help give Eli another weapon. Having said all that, I'm going to
those guys.
No, it is. It is one of the three, and I'm going to give them Bradley Chubb, defensive end, North Carolina State. Here's a guy who can really get after the passer. He has all 5 fingers. So that's a huge plus for the Giants. You look at how much that they sucked on defense last year. I think Bradley Chubb just overall the best defensive player in this draft. They did. But Todd, stop.
Was there any consideration of naming Noah's Todd?
No.
Or having Todd be his middle name with Todd spelled T-A-W-D.
Oh, that would be great. But no, unfortunately, that was not up for consideration. But I will give the Giants Bradley Chubb.
You got Bradley Chubb. I think they're going Saquon Barkley. Charlie, what say you?
What I think for the Giants, or are we moving on to the Jets?
Yeah, just your reaction to the Giants.
I think that would be a good choice to take Chubb. I don't think that's what they're going to do, though.
I think it's
reasonable. I don't think it's a bad idea, but
I think Saquon Barkley is a better running back prospect coming out of college than Adrian Peterson was. And I think last year we had said
people like this guy. I mean, this guy is the guy in the draft. Everybody thinks he's a Hall of Fame.
But you can look at what the Chiefs did last year in getting Kareem Hunt out of Toledo in the 4th round, and he arguably had a better year than Leonard Fournette, who was taken number 4 overall by the Jaguars. I mean, I agree. I think Barkley would make a lot of sense here, but you can also get another good running back, like let's say Darius Geis falls in the 1st round. Not from Texas, which is back.
Texas is back.
LSU.
What's
the deal? Here's the deal. Oh.
So I do
Phil
think the
Hughes is
Giants.
still pitching. Jesus Christ. What are you doing pitching, you stupid bastard? You suck, stacking.
I know he does. I know he does.
It's Jaguars, by the way, not Jaguars.
Oh, pardon me.
Jaguars.
I look at it as kind of like Worcestershire sauce. As long as you say it really fast and then just move on to something else, no one pays that close of attention to how you pronounce it.
I don't think I would tend to agree. I think Saquon Barkley will go to the Giants here. I don't think they're ready to make the quarterback move necessarily. They do have a lot of needs. So I would have to disagree with Stack, and I don't think this is a good pick.
They do need a running back. They do need defensive ends. That's what makes it difficult. They got Jonathan Stewart, who's 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They got Wayne Gallman, my guy from Clemson. They drafted
Orleans Darkwa.
Darkwa got murdered in the shootings. They run a 3-4, and
I think if they had not traded JPP, then I think they would go Barkley, and I don't even think you'd really have to consider anything
no question. There's no question.
No, yeah.
Well, pick
old
a player with
Marshler.
10 fingers. That's half the battle here.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Your scouting report.
That's why I said that's one of the pluses that for Bradley Chubb is that he's got 10 fingers.
So you've got that. Charlie, you got the Jets here, another garbage organization. Did a little better than people maybe would have expected, but they're still picking third here. What say you for the Jets?
I think, to me, based off my internet research, the Jets need a quarterback, running back, offensive lineman, or defensive lineman. I think the Jets will go into it saying we want either Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, or Saquon Barkley. And since they pick third, at least one of those guys is going to be available. In our situation, what we've got, it's between Rosen and Barkley. I like Barkley. I think the Jets, they are fascinated by quarterbacks and bringing back Joe Namath. I think the Jets are going Josh Rosen.
Josh Rosen. Look at that. There we go. Anybody surprised by this? Is that who you originally had?
I did not fill out an entire 32 mock draft. I've got it listed by I've got 8 prospects for each position.
Okay.
This is the pick that I have for the Jets making. It seems like Rosen is kind of that bright lights kind of guy going from LA to New York. I think that this makes a lot of sense given how bad the Jets are at drafting quarterbacks. So, I foresee them drafting Rosen. I've heard a lot of. There's been a lot of steam building up here this last week that they might go Mayfield. I think that would be a terrible choice at number 3 to the Jets, but I think that's a wild card or a sleeper that we have to watch out for. Is
when we do our mock draft, that's why we'll have the Jets take.
To be fair, also, I think whoever the Jets take if they take a quarterback, we will assume won't do great because the Jets just aren't very good.
Right.
Marcus, the Browns are up at 4, and they have a running back right there. The best player of all time is at number 4.
That's true.
Jared Zabransky?
Zabransky. It's hard to pass him up. But they just signed Carlos Hyde. They just got Carlos Hyde.
The question here is whether or not you think Cleveland will use both of their picks, because this is obviously trade bait if they could get another team that really wants a quarterback here at this stage. But we're not trading any of the picks, so that makes Saquon Barkley the very easy choice at this point. And I've got him going to Cleveland. Cleveland has a very good team going at this stage. And also, I think if Bradley Chubb were to be available, that would be a good spot because then you've got him and Myles Garrett. That's pretty good edge rushing guys. But Saquon Barkley, not a bad choice. Hopefully his career does not go into the dumpster that most careers go to when you go to Cleveland.
It seems like they'll end up with the quarterback and then the difference between Chubb and Barkley, whoever falls. And they do Myles Garrett, as you said. And they also got Carlos Hyde. So it's like, well, just take whatever you can get and go from there. Number 5, the Denver Bronco is on the clock. Let's go, Bronco. Let's go. I have them, I suppose, taking a stupid bastard from Wyoming, Josh Allen. Why? Because he's tall, and if we know one thing about horse teeth, Elway, he likes them tall, and he likes them bad. They don't get any taller. They don't get any worse than this. Paxton Lynch, Osweiler, nobody compares to the garbage of Josh Allen.
Well, they actually literally do not get any taller than Brock Osweiler.
No, he's the tallest of all time.
He is the tallest.
And I will say this. I think it said a lot that Denver didn't go after Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
They went after Case Keenum, and it's a 2-year deal. So whether it's Josh Allen here or somebody else, Baker Mayfield, whatever, they made it pretty clear that they're still looking for a quarterback.
Can anyone else besides me see a situation where it's built into Josh Allen's contract that once a week he has to sit in a dark room with John Elway and they just watch John Elway highlights and they're like, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to do what John Elway did on the drive against the Browns and then you'll be good. And, of course, none of it working at all.
I'm sure Peyton Manning had to do that too, but then he also insisted that John Elway watches Peyton Manning highlights for an hour too. So
I would just think you'd have to watch all sorts of Peyton Manning commercials for all the stuff you.
That's probably more likely.
I love the idea of John Elway setting that up and every single play, Peyton pausing it and being like, okay, what'd you see here? And like going way deep into it. And John Elway's like, yeah, I don't know. This was a bad decision. I wish I wouldn't have done this now.
I was just throwing the ball. Where else could they go here?
I think
offensive line is just Quentin Nelson very awfully high as a guard.
I think that's certainly a spot they could go with. There's also, they did lose Aqib to leave, so you could look at a Denzel Ward from Ohio State over there as well. And if Saquon Barkley happens to fall at 5 to him, then I think that is like you immediately it shouldn't even take a minute. You run up there and select Barkley.
Because they need to run back.
I do think you could also look at a trade here, and Buffalo has been predominantly in many mock drafts the partner that would be trading up to the spot.
I think the same could be said for Bradley Chubb. If he's available here, Denver takes Bradley Chubb. So.
Yep, agreed.
Colts, the stacking Colts. They got a quarterback who doesn't have an arm, so that's intriguing. What say the Colts, who have really fallen off the map?
They have. You think of the trajectory that this team was on with Andrew Luck over his first 2 or 3 years, and just how bad they've fallen off. I think you can go. I would not be surprised here if Denzel Ward is the pick, but you need to protect Andrew Luck.
No, don't do it, Stackin. Don't do it.
They will take Quentin Nelson, guard from Notre Dame.
You son of a bitch. Now I got to change who I got to take for the Bucs, Stackin.
Good pick. Logical pick. I like the pick. Charlie, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are up next. They obviously, honest to Christ, they're probably the first team in the top 6 that don't need a quarterback or have no questions at quarterback or don't have an old quarterback. So Tampa Bay, do they go? You had them taking an offensive lineman here. Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of there's like no offensive players in this draft outside the top 5. So it seems like it's going to be very defensive heavy the rest of the way.
I think there's probably some truth to that. Since Nelson's gone, I don't know if there's other linemen that I think will clearly go in the first round, but nobody you look at and think, oh yeah, this is a guy that clearly should go in the top 10. So I also have the Buccaneers needing defensive linemen or cornerbacks. So I will go with the Ohio State cornerback, Denzel Ward.
Denzel Ward. Number 7. Marcus.
Don't love it, but I think it at least makes sense. And, you always need pass rushers and guys who can cover receivers anymore.
You do. The Bears are up, Marcus, one of your favorites. The Bears, an awful organization.
They are. Like you said, a team that does not need a quarterback. Probably should have waited until this year to pick one, to be honest.
Well, they need one.
They do need one. They took Frank last year.
What about Nate Trubisky?
I think the idea of picking John Trubisky was a very dumb idea. The Bears this year, they can't go back in history. They would be thrilled to have either Quentin Nelson or Denzel Ward, I'm sure, because the Bears are bad and they have a lot of holes they need to fill. Also on this board would be Mike McGlinchey, the offensive tackle from Notre Dame, but I would say that 2 offensive linemen from Notre Dame going in the top 8 picks doesn't seem right. Also probably a little early for McGlinchey. So Chicago, Notre Dame, same thing. Chicago will take Tremaine Edwards, inside linebacker, Virginia Tech.
Stacken's guy.
A linebacker.
He's very good. I like him.
We'll stay with the linebacker theme here. With the 49ers, they've got a safety running the deal. There's a couple safeties out there, one of which I did not have available. So that's piques the interest here of what they do. I am taking a linebacker. They lost Eric Reed. So I say, based on this, I have San Francisco taking Derwin James, safety from Florida State.
Nice.
I love this pick, and I think that they would be happy if either Minkah Fitzpatrick or Derwin James fell them. I have actually James. I think he could go 7 to Tampa Bay initially.
We have a first corner, first safety off the board,
Mm-hmm.
The stacking Raiders are at number 10. Who's the quickest?
Well, Michael Thomas out of Ohio, or Marcus Thomas, whatever it was. I don't even have tape on him. I think that the Raiders here are going to have one of 2 very good
picture Marcus Russell.
Backs. Yeah, he's coming back. It's kind of surprising to me right now that Minkah Fitzpatrick is still on here. The Raiders, I think, do have some secondary assistance, but how do you pass up a guy like Roquan Smith, the linebacker from Georgia? He's too damn good, and I think you got to take the best player available. I think he has more upside than Minkah Fitzpatrick, who he can play safety, can play corner. It's going to be a matter of what team drafts him and where they want him to go. But I will have the Raiders taking Roquan Smith, outside linebacker, Georgia.
Charlie. I have Josh Rosen falling to Miami for my deal. Where does Miami go here?
That would be interesting if Rosen fell that far. I'd probably be okay if they took him. Just looking at ours, 2 picks ago, the Dolphins kind of need everything. They consistently are mediocre, where they're like, hey, we're okay, but we're not great, so we can take almost anything. I've got them leading receiver, linebacker, defensive back, offensive line, and defensive line. And certainly they could use a quarterback too. 2 picks ago, before you took Derwin James, I looked at the board and was like, well, they could get either Derwin James, Roquan Smith, Calvin Ridley, or Minkah Fitzpatrick. Like, one of those 4 they should take. So obviously with James and Smith gone, it's between Minkah Fitzpatrick, the safety out of Alabama, or Calvin Ridley, the receiver out of Alabama. I'm kind of deciding right now. Maybe this is just human nature, but everyone likes shiny offensive toys more. So I'm going to go Calvin Ridley, receiver out of Alabama, to the Dolphins.
Wow.
Got to replace that production from Jarvis Landry, who was good, but not an elite receiver. So they will get another guy who probably won't be an elite receiver because they're not very good, but they at least have a guy to throw the ball to now.
I have to admit, I'm stunned with this pick here because you do need to replace a guy like Ndamukong Suh. So Vita Vea from Washington is available, and I also think not Mason Rudolph, but Baker Mayfield here would certainly be in play for the Dolphins at 11.
The problem is, I don't know. Like, I'm not saying Tannehill's great. I don't know if any of these quarterbacks are going to be better than Ryan Tannehill, and I think Vita Vea is good, but I mean at 6'3" and 740 pounds of pure muscle. Like, he's great at stopping the run, but they need guys that can also rush the passer. And I don't know if he's going to be like, I don't know if you want to get a 2-down defensive lineman in the top 15.
Is this the part of the draft where the defensive guys drop off a little bit? Is this where we start to see that? Would Minkah Fitzpatrick is still out there, I guess, according to this?
Yeah.
He might be the last name guy out there. The Buffalo Bills are at 12, Marcus. Again, Mason Rudolph, a guy. It looks like the Bills will go after a quarterback at some point. Bills going after quarterback at some point, you would think. Either go for it here at 12, or do they go for it maybe at 23? Or not?
I feel like Buffalo has a lot of needs. Their quarterback situation not settled. I had 3 quarterbacks down here on their list based on the other mock drafts I've seen. Josh Rosen was one of those. He's obviously not still around. And so I believe this is the spot for Baker Mayfield in Buffalo. I'm not sure if that's a good fit, but I also feel like he is probably a top 12 quality type guy. And I'd be surprised if he falls any lower than this. So I will just say Baker Mayfield at this stage.
I agree.
My big surprise stacking is Mason Rudolph right here. This is my big surprise. I think they could probably get him at 23, but I'm going to say right here.
You know what? That's not a bad pick either. I think, I don't have Mayfield falling past 11 to the Dolphins. But I think certainly that you are going to see 15, 16, 17 with Arizona, Baltimore, and the Chargers as, I guess, where we really find out, like, if they're going to take like a Lamar Jackson, or maybe Mayfield falls, maybe someone's going to take Mason Rudolph. And then you're going to see one of these other teams that maybe need a quarterback get back into that first round or take one later. Like maybe New England is forced to take a quarterback at 23. I think that this is going to be the fascinating part in terms of the Dolphins and the Bills, and then falling to 15, 16, 17, who takes that next quarterback.
13 with the Washington Ball Club. They run a 3-4, so I'll take Vita Vea from Washington to fill up that middle. That's who I've got right there. 13 to the Redskins.
Makes sense.
ND Stack and Blogspot.Fargo. Packers are up next because I know you love them.
Interesting. You have Vita Vea going from to Washington from Washington.
Velveeta Vita.
Yes, it's very good. And the Packers are completely stunned right now, but they are incredibly happy.
They can't believe it. They can't believe it, Stacking.
How did this guy, insert draft guy, fall to us? We're here. How did they do it?
This is like Aaron Rodgers all over again. I will give the Packers, I think, cornerback here, if, maybe I don't know, like a Marcus Hughes from, or Mike Hughes, excuse me, from Central Florida. But Minkah Fitzpatrick is there. I don't know how he is. So, let's pair up Clinton Dix with Minkah Fitzpatrick, safety from Alabama.
Couple of Alabama safeties with fun names playing in Green Bay.
I like it a lot. Cardinals are up next, Charlie. They've got a Viking quarterback, because who doesn't have a Viking quarterback this year? They've got a great wide receiver, who this is likely his last year. Where does the Cardinal go at 15?
I've got the Cardinals needing a quarterback, a receiver, an offensive lineman, or a safety. I think there are a lot of good offensive linemen. I don't know. I mean, other than Quentin Nelson, who I think will go high. I think there's going to be other offensive linemen that go in the first round, but nobody who jumps out is like, oh my God, we can't miss on this guy. I think the Cardinals in our situation would be crying that one pick before them, Minkah Fitzpatrick, went. So between receiver and quarterback,
the Honey Badger is gone.
Yeah, so now we're kind of like, do they want to get the fifth quarterback or the second receiver of the draft? So based off what we've got, I've got them taking one of the two Oklahoma State guys, either Mason Rudolph or James Washington.
Oh.
I think they're going to go – I think you're going quarterback. Mason Rudolph to the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I would like to know how many straight years we've had Arizona take a quarterback. I feel like that's happened a fair amount, and I could actually look here as well.
Look at the deal there. The history of it. Quarterback goes at 15. The Baltimore Ravens are up. Marcus Traxler.
We didn't last year. I had him taking Corey Davis, and that did not happen. So
Corey Davis Realtors.
What did
we before we get to this? What did we do last year? What did we get right here? Take a peek at last year.
So let me zoom this out here just for a second.
Miles, we got the top 2 right.
Yep.
Funny how I got the first pick again. Huh?
Funny how that works. Yeah, there are the picks. There's ours on the left. The actual
Solomon Thomas went to San Francisco, but it wasn't at 2, so that's a good pick.
Yeah.
10 more spots. Yeah.
Obviously, nobody thought that Frank Trubisky would go at the second pick, so you can't really blame anybody for that.
Who had him at? Well, I had him going to the Jets.
You had him at the Jets, number 6, which seems like a very Jets way of doing it.
You had Christian McCaffrey at 8, which happened. Charlie had Deshaun Watson going to 12, which did happen to Houston. They must have traded up.
Yep.
With Cleveland, yep.
And the other one we got was Jared Davis going to Detroit at 21. So
I completely forgot about Solomon Thomas, and how excited is he that he played for Stanford? He doesn't have to move that far to San Francisco to play for the Niners.
It worked out well for him.
Charlie had Dalvin Cook 17 to Washington. I'm glad that did not happen. Any other picks to note there?
Well, we seem to replicate properly the defensive guys going late in the draft. Stacken had Pat Mahomes going to Houston at 25, and he, of course, went in the top 10 to Kansas City. That's why Kansas City does not have a draft pick this year. Derek Barnett, who ruined the Vikings' dreams in the NFC Championship game, went 14th. We had him going 11th to New Orleans.
Jarrod Davis, Detroit. Is that correct?
That was correct, right on the money there.
Ooh, got the pick wrong for my Dolphins. I feel good that I at least got the right position, though, at defensive end.
That's right.
Taco.
Also, yeah, same for me. I had 23 with the Giants. I had David Njoku taken. Instead, they took Evan Ingram. Goddamn tight ends.
There we go. We'll take a look back at other drafts as well. You're up next with Baltimore at 16. Yeah,
Baltimore, one of those teams that has a lot of holes to fill. To be honest, they could take Lamar Jackson right here. They may be in need of a tight end. We should have a discussion here because I'm sure we're going to come up on the Dallas Goedert thing here at some stage. But when did Dallas Goedert get passed up as one of the top tight ends? Because all of a sudden, Hayden Hurst, South Carolina.
I think Hayden Hurst has always kind of. It's been him and Goddard in the 1-2 discussion, and now Mike Gesicki from Penn State.
There was a while there. What's his nuts from Wisconsin was the top guy too. I mean, he was up there.
What's his nuts?
Fumagalli, he's not up there anymore.
I like what's his nuts better.
It is
better name. You mean what's his nuts?
This is Baltimore though. They take defensive guys, so they
also take murderers.
Specifically, Alabama defensive guys.
Yes, but I don't see an obvious defensive. They could take Jair Alexander. He's at Louisville. My notes are almost.
It's a red.
Are you talking about Deron Hand? Is that or?
Well, Deron
Payne.
He could eat the whole offensive line of the opposition as well. I'm going to have him take Harold Landry, defensive end, Boston College.
Stacking, Lloyd I thinks this guy's the next coming of Christ. What say you?
It's hard to argue with how good Landry has been.
It's hard to argue with the second coming of Christ. It's hard to argue that.
It is. I think he's going to be a very good player. Obviously, I liken, because Luke Kuechly's from Boston College. Obviously, they didn't quite play the same position, but Landry has a lot of good. No, but you see the pedigree that Boston College can provide.
I'm going to guess Harold Landry's a black guy. Is that right or wrong?
No, he's white.
White.
I think. Maybe.
Wow, Krenz. RACIST.
Not a clue. I don't got a clue.
Let me check. I might be wrong.
What,
on that.
Nelson,
didn't watch a lot of,
Quentin Nelson
you watch a
black?
lot of 3-9 Boston college football last year or whatever they were?
Quentin Nelson's black, right?
No, he's white.
Never mind. Harold Landry is not. He's not white.
He's black. Okay.
But I think he's very, very good. There was talk going into last year that he was going to be a top 10 pick, and I mean, maybe it's because you have a lot of quarterback hungry or quarterback needed teams that he's falling. But honestly, I mean, he's probably a better. I'd probably put him ahead of Tremaine Edwards. I think you could probably put him and Roquan Smith in the same field. So if he falls, any team that gets him at this stage in the game, I think it should feel very fortunate.
Real quick, I may be getting Landry mixed up with someone else. He's like real tall and heavy for a defensive end.
6'3", 250 pounds.
Never mind. Completely disregard what I said. I was thinking of somebody else.
Honest to Christ, I'm looking through my list. I think I've heard of maybe 14 or 15 of these guys.
For like
You watch college football.
No, just like, like Bradley Chubb. Did I know of him during the year? Probably
Yeah,
not.
I didn't watch him though.
No.
I did not know of Quentin Nelson until about 15 minutes before this show when I started doing the research for this, and I didn't know about
Nelson.
Tremaine Edwards. I just want to back up to the Tremaine Edwards pick for a second.
Isn't it Edmonds?
Yeah.
Tremaine Edwards was like the guy I had on my list for Chicago. They probably should take a Derwin James, Roquan Smith, whatever, but they didn't, and I'd be fine if they got the wrong person. So
He was the guy that got – there's always the guy that gets left behind, and he was the guy that got left behind for me. And I'm like, well, this guy's still available, but he's going to go like in the top 10, so I'll have to readjust for that.
Yeah.
I've got the Chargers. We're playing a soccer stadium.
L.A.
17.
Clearly,
A
they
battle
need
for
a
LA.
defensive tackle, right?
Deron Payne. Yes, Deron Payne from Alabama is who I've got them taken, because you look at they got Bosa, who's going to be great, who already is great, and they don't got much up the middle. So, I'll take they got Ingram and Bosa. Good outside. Corey Liuget, who they took years ago from Illinois, he's suspended for the first 4 games.
Good.
At Brandon, they got a dude. So I'm thinking they go.
Brandon Mebane?
Yep, and he's old as hell. So I got Deron Payne, defensive tackle, Alabama.
He's old as hell.
Funny inside story. I completely keep forgetting that there's 2 teams in Los Angeles now. So I read I'm looking at Marcus's thing constantly. So I saw LA Chargers, but mixed them up with LA Rams. So I was being a smartass when I said defensive tackle, because I was thinking of a different team. And the whole time I was like, how are the Rams picking so high? But
nobody filled in the actual picks from last year on this sheet, so I was doing that before this, and I just wrote down Los Angeles, like, oh yeah, LA Rams, and I didn't realize that that both the Chargers and the Rams were in LA last year. So
Every time I see LAC, I'm wondering why the Clippers all of a sudden are playing football.
I think it's possible that we will forget that the Chargers are in Los Angeles for like another 6 years, just because I don't think they're going to ever like really be good for a while. Well, I think the Rams may not always be good, but will at least have dudes where they're, memorable and interesting.
This is the
Chargers take a quarterback, for God's sakes. Phil Rivers, you going to do that forever? What are we doing here?
bumping them out.
I think his firstborn child, though, is probably old enough to be eligible for the draft.
Literally the heir apparent to the quarterback position.
Heir apparent to his father. I think, there's been numerous, a lot of people calling him San Diego still last year. I think that'll just be a thing, because who cares about the Chargers?
I'm going to make a very, very bold proclamation.
Uh-oh.
I don't think the Chargers will be in LA 6 years from now.
Where are they going?
I say they will either go back to San Diego or Oakland.
Or Oakland.
They should go somewhere else. I don't think anyone in Los Angeles is ever going to care about the Chargers unless
No one gives
they
a damn
become
about them.
fantastically good. So at least go somewhere where you can be the show in town.
Let this be your draft special. The Chargers will be somewhere else.
They could be in, I will say, San Diego, Oakland, or London.
I'd say with the first two. You're up. Seattle. Yes. Seattle has torn it down. They're tearing it down.
Throw it down, young man.
This is a spot where I think you could definitely see potential for offensive linemen to help protect Russell Wilson a little bit more. Maybe running back, since their running game is atrocious. But they have really torn their defense into shreds. So Josh Jackson here, cornerback from Iowa, I think makes a ton of sense. But I'm going to give them...
Stacking, I crossed Jackson off. Oh, man, I got to...
But if they don't go Jackson, and I think they're going to go with Marcus Davenport, defensive end from University of Texas, San Antonio.
Is it okay if I refer to him, whether he's good or bad, I just call him Marcus Couch?
Sure.
I don't see why not.
Good. Dan Beck, friend of the program, he married a lady. Her last name is Davenport, so I always call them the Couches. I say, how are the Couches doing? That's what I call them.
I'm sure they appreciate that, too.
I'm sure they do. How about them Cowboys? They got rid of a receiver, so maybe they replace said receiver with said receiver. The Cowboys. We go to number 19 in Sioux City.
I've got the Cowboys needing a receiver, a defensive lineman, or a linebacker. And while there are certainly some defensive linemen and linebackers that are good and worth taking, I am generally of the belief that history always repeats itself, and sometimes I get too caught up in that. And Dez Bryant, a great receiver out of Oklahoma State. How do you replace him? With another Oklahoma State receiver, James Washington, going to the Cowboys.
James Washington, Oklahoma State. How about them Cowboys?
No, the Cowboys are the Cowboys.
First time I got to dig deep here.
Again, I think it would just be great if Dallas Goedert would be selected by Dallas.
I actually did think about taking Goddard there, but I don't know. I don't think he's going in the top 20.
Somebody's got to replace Jason Witten, y'all.
He should have been invited here. This is a colossal mistake by the NFL.
No, it's not.
They have
Stacking, you should have invited him on this podcast.
What do you
Colossal mistake on your part.
That is
you blew it. You blew it.
I did.
For Detroit, they're up next, Marcus. They pick at 20.
They need defensive linemen, and two of the defensive linemen, Marcus Davenport and Harold Landry, already off the board. They will take the defensive tackle from Florida, Taven Bryan, who is a white guy.
Are you shitting me?
I'm not shitting you.
Taven. That's unfortunate.
That is.
This is probably stereotyping on my part. I assume every defensive player for Florida State, Florida, and Miami is not a Caucasian gentleman.
That's right. That's right.
And I shouldn't. That's not fair.
No, you shouldn't, because the statistics bear it out. The Bengals are up next. Marvin Lewis somehow still has a job despite, 15 years, and he's won 0 playoff games, so that's the way they like it. In Cincinnati, in the Natty, they traded for Cordy Glenn to be left tackle from Buffalo, so they're shoring up that. They don't have a center, so they need a center, so they're going to pick a center. Frank Ragnow from Arkansas, very sexy pick, a center from Arkansas to the Bengals at 21.
They a Minneapolis area native as well.
I think this is a deal where they're picking a center. It's just pick whatever the hell one you want. So,
well, who's the other center that you would think?
The guy from Iowa.
The guy from Iowa is good.
Yeah. So pick one of those guys. We'll go with Frank because his name's Frank.
It's great.
Stacking noted Buffalo Bill. You love your Bills, and the Bills are on the clock, coincidentally.
Well, you know what? Kevin Connors and I had a discussion about this the other day about what would happen if the Bills do have that pick at 22, and Bills Mafia is certainly all about. Yeah, so I think you could see them going wide receiver help here. So who do I?
Who did Buffalo take the first time around, Marcus? You had 'em.
Baker Mayfield.
They had Baker Mayfield. So who's going to pair up with the old Mayfield? Mayfield and what's his nuts is possible here. Really is. Really is.
And his tight end, Mark Andrews. I don't think his tight end's going first round to Buffalo.
I think DJ Moore is a possibility here.
The Belldozer. Where's the Belldozer?
Christian Kirk. But
you're looking wide receiver here.
I'm gonna say cornerback. I think they take the best cornerback off of the market, and off of the board, and that would be Josh Jackson from Iowa.
You're actually picking him this time. This isn't you're switching at the last minute, so I have to cross it off again.
This is just so he can. No. I don't think Stacken realizes that we don't put down the 3 people he has listed for every pick.
No, I know.
I know. The one he picks. You
yes, it
is. Your bets. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Jackson goes to Seattle, but you got to pick him. Another shitty pick.
Stacken, why not pick another receiver that they can then trade to Buffalo in 5 years?
Well, they are Buffalo.
No, or trade to LA and trade to the Rams in 5 years.
Well, I mean, that's because there's just I don't know. I mean, if you want DJ Moore, that's fine. If you want Cortland Sutton from SMU, perfectly acceptable. Christian Kirk from Texas A&M, but I think you can pair Jackson up with that LSU dude they had that they got last year, and I think that'll be just fine.
I forgot that I'm supposed to criticize every stack and pick. I think I've only done it twice on behalf of David Schottenkirk, who told me to let him know that every pick he made was shit. So I want to retroactively make sure I call out all of Stacken's picks, and I will try to do it for the picks going forward as well.
Patriots are up next. Charlie, you've got the Patriots.
Also, Stacken, that's at least the second, if not the third time you've taken a guy right before I was going to take him, and I got to figure somebody else out.
You got to trade up. You got to get up. You got to get ahead of Stacken. You got to trade up.
It's what we call sniping.
True.
Here's my third round pick, so I can move up 2 spots.
I've got the Patriots needing a pass rusher, a quarterback, a receiver, or an offensive lineman. There have been 5 quarterbacks taken. I think there's a good chance Jackson goes in the 6th round. I don't think Bill Belichick's going to draft Lamar Jackson in the 1st round, though. Let's see. You know what? I got pass rusher as their biggest need. Sam Hubbard. We know that there are a lot of white guys that Bill Belichick likes. Sam Hubbard's a white guy out of Ohio State who used to be a lacrosse player like all those other New England Patriot dudes. So I'm going to say Sam Hubbard, Ohio State. It'll be wrong because nobody ever guesses who the Patriots take ever, but that's who I'm picking here.
The Carolina Panthers, Marcus, you made it good last year with the white running back. Who do the Panthers go with this year? You got them again. Building a dynasty.
Carolina, for a team picking 24th, has a fair amount of holes to fill as well, I'd say. They need help in the secondary. That's probably where they need to go. I would say that they will take Mike Hughes, who I don't believe is gone yet. Mike Hughes, cornerback, out of the national champions from a year ago, University of Central Florida.
Is there anybody out there named Mike Hunt?
I don't think there's been anybody named Mike. No.
Hunt. How about Stacken? Does tight end maybe? Does tight end go here? They got an old guy that wants to broadcast, and he gets hurt a lot. Is this where we can see tight end for the first time, perhaps?
Yeah, perhaps. I think the earliest you're going to see tight end would be 16 to Baltimore, maybe 18 or 19 to Seattle or Dallas. It's a remote possibility. 23 to New England. I guess I don't see Carolina taking tight end here, though I do think that is a pretty reasonable.
Need one next year.
It's a logical argument that you have just laid out.
There we go.
He fights with logic, folks.
And oftentimes I lose.
Titans are up next. I have the pick.
You do.
Rashaan Evans, linebacker, Alabama. There's a need. There's a need at the 3-4. They need another linebacker. We're going to give them an Alabama guy. Stack in Europe with the Falcons.
I don't, real quick, just on the Titans, and I'm not saying we have to go through and do this game, but to me, the Titans, just because of like where they're located, and they're usually like not bad, but not good either, that they're just like the most forgettable team like for the last decade. Taking Marcus Mariota / Mariota, however you want to pronounce it, out of it, because I think most people could name in.
Mariota!
Between the four of us, could we name 4 other current Titans players?
Yes.
I got the list up here. Give me a crack, Stack, and what do you got?
All right. I got Delaney Walker.
I don't even know who that is.
Tight end.
Yep, he's the guy.
I got
The
Luan, the offensive tackle from Michigan.
Yep.
Taylor Luan.
Yep.
Derrick Henry.
Yes.
Derrick Henry was the only other guy I could think of off the top of my head.
They got Dion Lewis and Malcolm Butler from the Patriots this year. You got Corey Davis, the wide receiver from Western Michigan from last year.
Okay, that's too many Titans. Too many Titans now. That's enough.
Good mix. That would be about all the Titans.
Who was the running back for the Cowboys that was good before they drafted? Yeah, he also plays for the Titans, right?
They released him, I believe.
Well, never mind then.
I believe when you play this, when people say "remember the Titans," you're thinking of the movie. No, people are like, "No, remember who the Titans are. Remember who plays for the Titans."
Strong side, Stack.
Ooh.
Okay.
DeMarco Murray not on a team right now. 30 years old.
That's about it for old Murray.
Vikings, pick him up.
Huh? Stack and the Falcons are the pick.
Yeah, they have a lot of I think a need along the defensive lineman. They got rid of Dontari Poe. So I think they would gladly take Taven Bryan, from Florida if he were available. But I will give them not the guy with the heart problem, Maurice Hurst, but rather Harrison Phillips, defensive tackle from Stanford.
Ended up being good. A kid from Nebraska that Nebraska said, "Nah, you're not good enough. We don't need you." Nice job, Nebraska.
We don't need you.
You did good. At least
Saints are up next,
Frost. You got Scott Frost.
That's true. They do have Frost.
Saints are up next, Charlie. Could tight end be in the future for the Saints?
Of team of needs, I've got a linebacker, quarterback, pass rusher, and tight end as needs. I don't think they're going to take Lamar Jackson, but I think Lamar Jackson could be good. He would have to go to the right team with the right kind of coordinator or head coach calling plays. I think Sean Payton could make Lamar Jackson I think that could be interesting, but I don't think that's what they're going to do. You know what? I'm going tight end. Dallas Goedert to the Saints.
Oh yeah.
Boom.
Spoiler alert, Stack, and I have Hayden Hurst to Carolina. I have Dallas Goedert to the Saints.
Very good. Very good. I like that. Obviously, I think Dallas Goedert is the best tight end in this draft, and I do believe he's going to be drafted in the first round. If not, people are going to be trading up for him if he falls into the second round.
Nobody's trading up for a tight end.
And in our situation, he's not going to the Packers or the Patriots, teams that we would – or I guess Stackins Eagles, teams that we would be like, well, I don't know if I want to be successful there. Be successful for a team that I don't mind.
It would be very hard to not see him do well with the Saints as long as Drew Brees is there. Seems like easy money.
It does.
Steelers are up, Marcus. They're pick 28.
I think we think that Lamar Jackson should be a first-round pick. So I will have the Steelers take Lamar Jackson. You can basically stow him away. They definitely have defensive needs here. But I think for the sake of our mock draft and the fact that we think I think he should probably be a first-round pick, and I don't see him going to Philadelphia. Lamar Jackson is the guy for me.
Look at you, folks.
As long as they've got some of the other offensive weapons they have there at Pittsburgh, it would be interesting to see Lamar Jackson mixed in with those gentlemen that are quite skilled at their skill spots. Antonio Brown and the running back, who I'm blanking on his name, out of Michigan State.
Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell, that guy, yeah.
That'd be a hell of a pick right there. I somehow got Jacksonville at 29.
Congrats.
I'll have them take Tanner Lee from Nebraska.
Oh.
That seems like the most likely spot. That's certainly what's going to happen.
Their defense is excellent. The defense is very good, and there's no. They could probably get a tight end. That'd be nice. Tight end around the spot. That'd be good for quarterback, whoever their quarterback is in future years. But I'm looking at linebacker. They've got Telvin Smith and Miles Jack, both exceptional.
Paul Posluszny retired.
Paul Posluszny dead. So I'd say you take a guy to replace Posluszny, and you take this Johnson out of Boise State or West Germany, Leighton Van Der Esch. Whatever the hell this guy is. So Boise State linebacker with a weird name. Jacksonville. There we go.
That's very interesting because I don't think anyone has the Jaguars taking defense here. So if they do,
more defense. They need more defense. Don't worry about the offense.
No. Because I look at them, I mean, running back.
Do it. Jake Wieneke, Minnesota Vikings. Jake Wieneke.
I can't.
I suppose like Jackson, like tight end, but I got the 2 tight ends gone. Receiver, but I got all the receivers gone. So.
I mean, the fact that Jair Alexander is still available, I think, will give the Vikings pause because they do need to revamp the secondary a little bit.
Do it.
However, offensive line is also up there. I do not want them to get Will Hernandez from UTEP.
Why not?
This guy just – I don't trust him.
And just because he's got a Hispanic last name, you don't want him to take him?
No.
Doesn't respect minors. Are you kidding me?
2 road runners in the first round. Come on.
I think certainly Isaiah Wynn would make a lot of sense here. However, Mike McGlinchey is still available. So I think if both of those guys between Jair Alexander and Mike McGlinchey are there, I think it's going to be a toss-up, but I will give them Mike McGlinchey, offensive tackle, Notre Dame, because Minnesota is truly the Notre Dame of
Michigan?
the –
Where's this guy from?
Notre Dame.
He's from Notre Dame?
Yeah,
Yep.
and Minnesota loves their –
lined up next to Quentin Nelson at left guard.
And Minnesota loves their Notre Dame players.
So real quick, Corinz, if you thought, I wonder how Notre Dame was much better last year and really good running the ball, it was because they had those 2 guys on their offense.
2 guys there. I had the Mexican going to the Vikings, so we'll see how that goes.
I think it'll be Isaiah Wynn. Put me on record for Isaiah Wynn.
Okay.
I think so too, because I don't think McGlinchey or Alexander will be there at 30.
Charlie, you got the Patriots somehow twice.
If they are both there, by the way, for the Vikings, just hand in 2 cards and just let Goodell figure out which one you're going to be taking. Or maybe he'll give you both. I don't know.
Make up for the Kevin Williams fiasco from a few years back.
Right.
Number 31, the Super Bowl runners-up. Charlie's got him again.
So they went pass rusher with their first pick in what we did. So I've got them also they could certainly get another, I guess. But a quarterback, a receiver, or an offensive lineman. I think all the quarterbacks that I think could go in the first round have all gone already. So I'm torn between an offensive lineman and a receiver. I think I will go with the Texas offensive tackle, Connor Williams. Part of it is my thinking that just tackles are more important than guards. So if you can get a tackle, take them. So that's what I'll do.
Soldier's gone anymore? Nate Soldier, got to replace him?
Yes. Yep.
Same to me. The Eagles, they won the Super Bowl after they beat the team in the stadium they played in. Eagles. Marcus, last pick of the first round.
I think, though, unfortunately, this would be a spot for Dallas Goedert if he's still available. They needed tight end because they lost Brent Selleck and they lost Trey Burton.
Have they found them? Has anybody found these guys?
I don't think anybody's found those guys, so that's not a great sign.
Well, somebody apparently reported into Chicago, but field tips are still remaining because he and Trubisky are both MIA.
Good.
He and Alex Trubisky.
Yeah, Francis Scott Key.
Jonathan Trubisky.
I think Philadelphia can address tight end later. I'm going to have them pick somebody more fun, and they'll have their crack at the second best running back on the board. Just add it to their already pretty good offense.
Geis.
I haven't. Well, who do you think is the second best running back here?
Darius Geis.
Geis, yeah.
The USC guy's pretty good too, though.
You don't. What do you think of Sony Michel?
Sony
He's
Michel.
also
Ooh,
pretty good.
Very intrigued. CC.
Yes, Sony Michel is going to the Eagles at 32 here.
The heir to the Sony Foundation.
That's right.
So Sony Michel from Georgia. He's from Georgia.
I'd just like to point out that some of the notable first-round names that I've seen in mock drafts that we don't
Still
have.
Maurice Hurst.
Yep. Will Hernandez, Darius Geis, Hayden
Moore?
Hurst, Isaiah Wynn, Jair Alexander, and Colton Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, who's Colton Miller?
He's an offensive lineman.
The guy from UCLA.
Yep.
So recap this here. What do we got? A couple of receivers, quarterback heavy at the top, a lot of defense in the middle and the end here.
Two running backs taken.
Yeah.
Two in the top there. There we go. Any surprises, Charlie? If you think, for my surprise, I got Buffalo taking Mason Rudolph at 12. That's probably a surprise. Also got Baker Mayfield at 3. Stacken mentioned Buffalo's trading up to 5 with Denver to get a quarterback. Any surprises like that you see?
In ours, or what I think is going to happen, or
what's actually going to happen, or any spots and teams you like to move up for certain players. If a Baker Mayfield gets past Miami at 11 and Buffalo at 12, I think, as Stacken said, you could see folks trading up.
I know in terms of ours, I think Minkah Fitzpatrick falling out of the top 10 and going to Green Bay is maybe the most surprising. And then, you mentioned it, and I think, everyone knows this. We don't know. There's always trades. We don't know who they are, so we don't predict them. But, the Browns with 2 picks, I kind of expect the Browns probably with that 4th one to trade down. I don't think the Patriots are going to pick at 23 and 31. I think I could see them trading to move up or maybe even moving back in one of them, but stuff like that.
Marcus, do you see New England surprising everybody and taking a quarterback in the 1st round, like a Josh Rosen, or if somebody falls?
I think if Josh Rosen does fall, I could see him going there. I'm not sure about Lamar Jackson if that's what they want to do. And I honestly think those are probably the only 2 guys they'd take. I don't know if Mason Rudolph would be their guy. So they could, but I just think it's more likely that they just get a quarterback in the 3rd or 4th round, or next year is the year nobody thinks any quarterbacks are any good. Maybe they wait till then.
Get the West Virginia guy, Will Greer, next year.
Right.
You heard about a Florida guy. There we go. Back in your thoughts on the draft here, according to what you have said, I think we've got a pretty similar mock draft here for next week.
Yeah, I think certainly I will. I have some changes here. Yeah, compared to the draft that we've just done. If we're talking New England, if they're staying put, I say Colton Miller is going to be a pick for them, and I think Dallas Goedert could be a pick as well to replace Gronk. I do think that if Josh Rosen were to fall, you know what? Bill Belichick's been enamored with Lamar Jackson, so I think that's certainly a possibility at either 23 or 31 as well. But I would say they would trade up as high as 9 with San Francisco. I think that is something, if Josh Rosen were to fall, that because I don't see Josh Rosen going, if he doesn't go to the Jets, I don't see him going to Buffalo. Buffalo's not trading up for him. Buffalo's going to trade up for either Baker Mayfield or Josh Allen. So,
I think Miami would pick him.
Which is why I think you would see the Patriots, if they really wanted him, trading up to 9 or 10 with either San Francisco or Oakland. San Francisco makes the most obvious sense given that the two teams have traded quarterbacks every once in a while. So I think that's certainly something there. I'm very curious to see what happens in picks 15, 16, 17, because I do think a quarterback is likely to go in with one of these three teams. It just depends. I mean, Arizona does not want to trade up. I don't think because they have a lot of holes to fill. But, you know, do the Chargers really need to make a splash? Maybe they do the reach. You know, the Ravens have Joe Flacco. He sucks. So I think 15, 16, 17 is where we're going to see a surprise quarterback pick.
I think
I think that's fair.
all of the final 10 teams could use a tight end, so that's good for any tight end.
Mm-hmm.
New England.
And if they don't take a tight end in the first round, you are going to see a run of them within the first 10 picks. I'll say minimum 3 tight ends are taken in the first 10 picks of the second round, if none go in the first.
Cleveland, let's say Cleveland stays put. Let's say they pick a quarterback. Say they take Chubb or Barkley. And they drafted, David Njoku from Miami last year. So would they be out of the market for where does Cleveland go at the top of the second round? If they got quarterback, let's say they go quarterback and they get Chubb, and then would that put them in position to get a Sony Michel or a Darius Geis, top of the second?
Maybe an offensive lineman because Joe Thomas retired, right?
Yep. I agree with that one, totally.
So some possibilities there.
I think Cleveland could. I just feel like they could always use defensive playmakers. Like even if you've got some guys that are good on defense, if you've got a guy that you think can make plays on defense, you always need guys like that. Whether that's a pass rusher or a corner or a safety or whatever.
Browns are putting together a college all-star team here, but we'll see if it works out.
I'm going to say right now the Browns will be a playoff team within 3 years.
In 3 years. Here we go. Any final thoughts?
I don't think I've ever I think we say it every year, at least for me, I'm always excited by the draft because I like to see, what teams do what. There's always a team that surprises us and we can say, oh, this team looks like they're going to be good for years to come. I think the unpredictability of the top of this year's draft, it makes me more excited than any other previous drafts, just because I think the Giants are the real wild card in all this, because if they take a quarterback, you are going to see a host of teams trade up for him, for a quarterback. You could take either Brad or Chubb or Barkley, and that would be fine. I just don't think we know for sure. Most years we have an idea who's going to go in the top 5. I don't think this year we have any clue. I really don't, because
I think we have an idea. We just don't know the order. Sam Darnold
Right.
will, Barkley will, Chubb will. I feel confident in saying those 3 will be in the top 5.
I agree. I mentioned it earlier. We had 6 picks right last year. I'd be shocked if we get 6 right, because you're usually banking on those top 5, getting them nailed down one way or the other. I think, last year's draft was a bit surprising in that with Trubisky going second, that just sort of set off the whole draft. I could see something similar happening along those lines again this year. Like Stacken said, if the Giants decide to get interesting and not take a quarterback at number 2, that could, or if they do take a quarterback, that could set things off a little bit. And they may be the ones, we're really watching to see how the draft shapes up after they go.
I should rephrase what I said. I think we do have the top 5 accurate. It's just a matter of, if, like I say, the Giants, they could do some different stuff. The Broncos, if Barkley were to somehow fall to them, that'd be interesting. Who outside of the top 5 would you be most or least surprised to see get in there. Like if we were to take out Josh Allen, does Quentin Nelson make a lot of sense? Denzel Ward, Derwin James, who
makes cornerback to Denver?
I think it's one of those two safeties, either Minkah Fitzpatrick or Derwin James, that we don't have going in the top 5, but I wouldn't be the least surprised if one of them did.
What do you think is going to be the most surprising pick in the first round?
Mason Rudolph at 12.
Whoever takes Josh Allen.
I think Mason Rudolph will be the best quarterback. That's what I'm going to go with.
I hope that's the case. I don't
could be.
know if that will be the way it'll be, but I hope. Yeah, I'm rooting for Mason Rudolph, no doubt.
I'm rooting for Josh Rosen as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think he got unfairly shit upon by a lot of people. So
I know, and in terms of the draft overall, I mean, unless you're an X's and O's expert, which I think it's safe to say none of us are, or a scouting expert, which I think it's safe to say that none of us are, that the drafts are kind of built on quarterbacks and offensive skill guys. And there's a lot of quarterbacks that are probably going to go in the first round and a fair amount of offensive skill guys. And I think the two most interesting things are going to be who takes Josh Allen, so we can go ahead and mark that everyone's going to get fired soon because they're idiots. And who takes Lamar Jackson, because I think Jackson could be good. Like, I think Josh Allen, could be good, but he would have to go to a team that's good and sit and learn stuff.
I think Denver would be
and
good.
All sorts of stuff. I think Jackson could be good, but he would have to go to, like, a creative team with a creative offensive play caller that uses them right. I think the Vikings are good. I don't think Lamar Jackson would do well in Minnesota. I don't think he would do well in Baltimore. Play some places like that. But I think if you went to the right team, could be really good. So I think it'll be interesting to see where Jackson goes and if he's utilized properly.
That would be where I would defend the Pittsburgh selection. I think Pittsburgh would find a way to use him
I think Pittsburgh or New Orleans make the most sense for Lamar Jackson, and I will put Jacksonville in as a wild card.
Jacksonville's got maybe if they have the right quarterback, they would do that, but they got to crack the offense open a little bit, I think. For him.
I like Jacksonville because it was proven last year their quarterback doesn't have to be good.
Right.
They can rely on their defense and Fournette. So, kind of like Colin Kaepernick with San Francisco. You don't need to be great. Just don't turn the ball over. So that's good. Yeah, he's wherever he goes.
That's true, but the problem is I think part of what makes him good isn't hey, let's play it safe. It's no, let's roll the dice here and see what happens. So, I think that if he goes to a defensive-oriented team, it would be difficult to maximize what Jackson does without just kind of changing maybe what your philosophies football-wise are and, how you're going to approach game days.
What's the most realistic fit, best fit for Dallas Goedert in terms of the pick and the team?
Saints.
This probably isn't the answer you're looking for, Stackin. I think it's just anywhere that has a good quarterback that's willing to throw it to the tight ends. I think there's 12 spots he could go that would be I don't think he's going to go 14 to Green Bay. I think he'd fit in great there. Anywhere that's got a top 10 quarterback, I think he would do exceptionally well. Yeah,
Chargers.
New England.
Chargers.
Or, yeah.
Well, they got that Hunter.
Hunter Healy?
Yeah, the guy, Hunter Henry from Arkansas.
Sure.
I'll end it with this. Similar to what Charlie said, I think there's too much like Lamar Jackson. If you're going to pick him, you're going to have to fit to him. He's not going to fit to you. So do more of what the guy does right instead of trying to change him to fit what you want to do. It seems like that does not happen nearly as often. You're bringing in a guy, you're saying this is what we're going to do, so change your shit to do what we want instead of us changing for you. So there we go. Who wants to go head-to-head? We'll have one person go head-to-head. The loser goes head-to-head with the person that doesn't, and then we'll have a championship.
I'll go first against somebody. I don't care who.
I just want to point out something real quick. I'm looking at NFL.com's mock draft, and Maurice Jones-Drew has Saquon Barkley going 1 to the Browns.
He's a dumb shit.
Bradley Chubb going 4 to the Browns, and then has him trading back into the first round for Lamar Jackson.
Jesus.
Well, that would go with Corinne's college all-star team thought.
Pretty impressive team there.
I'll go against Charlie. Why not?
Call him out. Why don't you, Stacken?
Boom. Let's do this.
You want to go by conference?
Sure.
Top Big 5 conferences based on where the team is in the conference now. Okay?
Okay.
Where current conference alignment. So if you were in the Big 10, so if you were in the Big 12 and now you're in the Big 10, your count as the Big 10.
Okay.
Now.
So I will avoid the ACC since they seem like they've had the most turnover.
Charlie, pick a conference of the 5. This is a I can name more than you type deal.
I'm torn between if I should take the Big 10 or the Big 12. Let's go.
Conference, and then Stacken starts off the bidding.
I will pick. I'm going to pick the Big 10.
The Big 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Stacken?
Yeah.
There's been 14 Big 10 guys. Pick number 1 overall. How many of those guys do you think you can name? Current Big 10 schools. There's 14 of them.
I'll say offhand, I'll say 2.
Charlie?
And this is going back to when the NFL draft started, or
1936 with old Burwanger. And no strikes. No strikes in this. No strikes.
Off the top of my head, I know 1 for absolute sure. And now I'm really quickly trying to run through years.
Big 10.
Because I know there's I don't think a quarterback in the Big 10 has gone in the first round since the mid 90s. And since quarterbacks so frequently go 1, I'm trying to think of other positions. I think I know 2 off the top of my head. You know what? Since I know 2, I could figure out at least another. So I could do 3.
Stacken usually pass.
Yep, have it.
Charlie, there's been 14 Big 10 guys, the number 1 overall pick. No strikes. You need to name 3 of the 14.
Irving Fryer.
He was taken number 1 by New England. He went to Nebraska. That counts for this. 1984.
Orlando Pace.
Orlando, Florida Pace to the Rams. He played for Ohio State. 97.
All right, that's 2. Now I got to figure out who the third one would be. I'm trying to think. Let's see.
Couple names out here.
I think I know 1 guy.
I think Irving Fryer is the only, at least in the last 30 or 40 years, the only Nebraska guy to go number 1 overall. Now I'm thinking of Ohio State, Michigan guys. There's a Michigan guy, an offensive lineman who went really high. I'm trying to double check to make sure in my head that it makes sense that he was 1. And I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to go Jake Long to the Dolphins in 07 or 08 or whatever.
2008, Michigan's Jake Long went number 1 to the Dolphins.
Oh, man.
You got it.
Is did we go with it? Can we guess any other ones?
Yep.
Does LeVar Arrington, was he taking number one overall?
Who's number 2?
I think he was number 2. I think it was Tim Couch that went on. I shouldn't say anything because these could become in different rounds things.
Jeff George.
Jeff George. Man, I forgot about Jeff George.
1990 to the Colts.
Because I think Kerry Collins was the last first-round draft pick at quarterback out of the Big Ten. I don't think they've had any since.
No. Courtney Brown in 2000.
No, yeah, he also went to the Browns, right?
Okay, so that's the one I was thinking of because he's from Penn State, right?
Yeah, he and LeVar Arrington both from Penn State.
Right, that's who I was thinking of.
Kajana Carter.
I remember who he is. I didn't know he went number 1 overall.
Penn State. Dan Wilkinson to the Bengals the year of 94.
Where'd he play?
Ohio State.
No, I didn't even know he was from a Big Ten team. That's interesting.
Might really be anybody else that we could know. Bubba Smith in 67.
I've heard of Bubba Smith. I don't know anything else about him. Michigan State?
Yes.
Offensive lineman?
Defensive end? Was he in the Police Academy movies?
No, maybe that's it. I think you're right. I think it's that guy.
There we go. It's feeding time with the Stacking household.
Mm-hmm. And it is.
Does he like it? Does he like it?
Most times, yeah. Maybe.
You like that food? Charlie, I'll let you pick. 4. Yeah.
So pick another conference?
Yep.
Let's see. Let's go with the Pac-12. I'm switching up things.
17 guys.
All right, so the Pac-12.
Current schools.
I could. I know I could at least name 3, so I will start with bid of 3.
Oh, boy. I gotta think they're all like USC guys.
How big are the bottles?
This one's a pretty decent size.
Like 6 ounces?
This one's 7.
7 ounces?
Mm-hmm. And Noah's like, "Why are you taking my food away from me, bro?"
Give me my nipple.
Either nipple or nose. Need one of those two.
Let him have it. Let him have 3.
What'd you say, 3?
Yep, 3 is what I said.
Next time, just do 1. See what happens.
Well, I was bluffing because I know I can name 2. I could probably figure out a third one. I will say, and they will probably all be quarterbacks. I will say Carson Palmer.
Yep.
I will say John Elway.
Yep.
And then, I can think of a guy, and I know he went early. I don't remember if it was number 1, though. So, all right, I'm just going to talk out loud, so it'll be more interesting than dead air time with no one talking. I don't remember if Akili Smith went number 1 overall. I know he was high. I know, and now I'm blanking on this guy's name. The guy he was a quarterback out of Stanford that went high and wasn't good and then got traded to the Raiders and won a title with the Raiders. But I don't remember if he was number 1 overall either. Let's see. I can't think of any Arizona guys that would have gone number 1. I can't think of any Arizona State guys. I think Jake Plummer went in the first round, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't number one. I guess I should also include Colorado and Utah. Oh, yeah. Well, Alex Smith, Utah. There.
Dang, from downtown. The Juice.
OJ.
Orenthal James.
Now playing for a CIF team.
Jim Plunkett.
Jim Plunkett. That was the Stanford guy I was thinking of.
Neckbeard Luck.
Oh,
Wow,
dog.
I can't believe I forgot about Andrew Luck.
The guy before Tom Brady.
Oh,
Drew Bledsoe.
Drew Bledsoe.
Keyshawn Johnson.
Drew Bledsoe was good and has just been like completely erased from most NFL minds, it seems like, which is kind of, it's unfortunate, but it also makes sense too.
He did get a Super Bowl ring, so that's good for him.
That's true.
Keyshawn Johnson.
That's right. I forgot that he went one also.
I think we're done with receivers going number one. I think
you're probably right. Calvin Johnson didn't go number one.
I could see a running back going one.
Didn't go one.
I could see a running back going one, but
Like
not.
Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. Troy
For a
Aikman.
receiver to go one, it would have to be a team that already has a quarterback. And so often, if you've got a quarterback, you're not picking one. So you would need to have a quarterback, and it would need to be somebody who is not only fast, but is also like big too. And there's just not many guys that are taller than 6'1" that are also, I mean, like they're fast for guys off the street, but not many that are faster than most defensive backs also.
Mm-hmm. And Troy Aikman, another guy.
Oh, yes.
Stacking, we got what, Big 12,
Mm-hmm.
ACC, and the SEC.
Give me the Big 12. And
There's only 9 of them. Charlie?
I can name one.
I'll name 2.
Ooh, stacking the balls of steel here. 2 Big 12 guys? Jesus Christ. Charlie?
Wait, didn't he say 1? Don't I get to
Yeah,
say
you said
2?
1. You said 2, right?
Yeah.
All right. Charlie?
Oh, yeah, so you can pass. Okay.
Do you dare go 3?
I think I could do 3, but I know I feel like if I say 3, Stacking's going to make me do it. And part of me is a little bit lazy and just wants someone else to have to do it. So I know 1 for absolute sure off the top of my head. I'm trying to think if I can think of any others real quick. I keep thinking of teams that are no longer in the Big 12 anymore, which is part of my problem. So, I can think of so many guys I think of that it's like that guy, and it's like, nope, that guy went like 3 or 4. He was high, but not number 1. So you know what, Stacking, prove it. Name 2.
All right. I got Sam Bradford.
He is the only Big 12 guy.
You said 9.
I know, but everybody else was either a Big 8 or another conference. Well, there you go. There's your hint.
He's saying that
okay.
since the Big 12 was formed, he's the only one.
Okay.
So, Sam Bradford, yes.
The other
Couple gentlemen here or names. Other than that, it's tough.
Now that you say that there aren't any other Big 12 guys, I'm glad I passed this stack.
Well, the only other.
There's one all-timer. There's a couple other pretty good ones.
The only other one that I thought of right away was Barry Sanders, so I'll say that.
He was not number 1, no.
No, damn it.
I believe that was the year that was the year everyone in the top 5 went on to be a Hall of Famer except Tony Mandarich. I think Aikman was number 1 that year.
Earl Campbell was a guy.
I didn't know he went number 1 overall.
No.
I know he was really good.
Billy Sims was a guy.
Also a guy who I know was good, but didn't know went 1 overall.
Only other guy I've heard of here is Leroy.
Billy Sims is the guy who, whenever you have watched the Heisman Trophy, yells "Boomer" Sooner whenever there's an Oklahoma guy up for the award.
Only other guy I've heard of is Leroy Selman.
Wow. Who are the other ones?
Tommy Nobis in 66. Kenneth.
He was a Texas linebacker, like back when, I think that was when it was still segregated.
Kenneth Sims.
I don't know who that
Dave
is.
Parks.
I don't know who that is either.
Bob Fenimore in the 40s.
Just for fun stacking, if I remember right, that draft where Barry Sanders went to the Lions, Troy Aikman went to the Cowboys, Derek Thomas went to the Chiefs, Deion Sanders went to the Falcons, and the Packers drafted Tony Mandarich.
Why can't they draft another quarterback like Tony Mandarich?
4 decisions.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but he was not a
Offensive line.
quarterback. He was an offensive lineman.
Oh, whatever.
Charlie won 3-0. We got 2 left. ACC or SEC? Charlie.
Let's do ACC.
9 of them stacking. 9 folk. ACC folk.
Yeah. I know 1 for sure. Oh. No, 2. God, we gotta have. I'll say 4.
4. Fucking
Stacking. I know 1 for sure. I think I could come up with another couple, but I will make you prove
Jeez.
the 4 out of
Right.
the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Okay. I
More
got
than 9.
Mario Williams,
Yep.
That was the 1 for sure I knew.
Jameis Winston.
No.
What he was number 1 pick that year, wasn't he?
Marcus Mariota.
No way. Wasn't
Yeah.
Tennessee before?
What, 2000? Yeah, Tennessee was before.
Or I thought they were after.
So 2015?
You shitting me?
Yeah, it would have been 2000.
Oh, that was Jameis Winston. Yep. Correction.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Jeez.
Yeah, that was the one added to my list here. So there was 10 of them. Okay, yeah. Jameis Winston. Yeah. Jared Goff, also a Pac-12 guy. Jameis.
I'm trying to think. There's got to be like a. Got to be in my.
When you said I know 1 for sure, I thought it was this guy. Like, well, yeah, he knows this guy for sure.
Well, because is it Michael Vick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that's the one.
Well, I thought that was one where he was like the 2nd or 3rd. You know. Okay, so that's 3.
There's 1. There's a couple more here.
I think the other one that I know. I'm just trying to see if there's any other ones that come to immediately to mind. It's not Calvin Johnson because he went number 2. Okay, no Duke. Duke can't have one. That'd be preposterous. At least not in my
They
lifetime.
could have one, but
Yeah,
probably
just not in my lifetime.
30 or 40 years.
Wake Forest, no. North Carolina. Ooh, son of a gun. No.
Wake Forest came close with the guy who ended up being like one of the monumental top 5 busts, but we don't make as big of a deal out of defensive guys.
Well, they had a number 1 overall pick in Tim Duncan, but that doesn't count for this question.
Tim Duncan would have made a heck of a tight end.
Louisville, no. The one guy I'm thinking of was Chris Wanke, but I'll say
Stack it. I'm going to be nice. Don't guess Chris Winkie.
Okay,
Trust
all
me,
right.
you don't want to guess Chris Winkie.
Okay, that's fair.
Not only that, I'm fairly sure he didn't even go in the first round. I think he went in the second round.
Then I will say, who should I take? No, who should I pick? You said there's another obvious one.
There's a couple names.
Boy, oh boy. Oh no. Oh.
When do you give a kid their first haircut?
After a year or something like that.
You shave it bald.
Pretty much. DeBrickenshaw Ferguson for Virginia went number 4 to the Jets. So I said he went number 4 to the Jets. So that obviously doesn't fit it here. I'm trying to think when Chris Long was drafted. I don't think he was number 1 over. No, because he was 2 to the Rams. I'm pretty sure. So I will just say
shit, where'd mine
are? Boy, Michael Irvin? I don't think that's not it. I'll say Michael Irvin. That'll be my official guess.
That was not correct.
Probably a good idea to think of Miami guys. I don't know. Was either Vinny Testaverde or Russell Maryland number 1 overall?
Yes and yes. Bruce Smith. Bruce Smith.
Yep.
The other Virginia Tech guy.
Yep. Was there anyone else from Florida State? Was there another quarterback?
No.
Okay.
Were there any other Florida State guys? Were there any other interesting names, period?
I lost my deal here. Where did it go? Oh, for Christ's sake. I'm going to go here. The Phillies stacking is got. It's all about the Phillies.
Hey, the Brewers did good this week.
Yeah. Looking, ba-ba-da, doop-a-doo.
If you don't have it, it's not that big of a deal. We can move on to the last one.
I gotta find it again here. SEC's got 20.
Jeez.
Which is Charlie, the first bidder who was, well, for fuck's sakes, where in the fuck did it go? $20 of them, yeah, 20 of them.
Well, I know 2 for sure, so I'm going to say I can name 3.
Yeah, other ACC guys were just guys. 3 of the 20.
You're. I'll say 4 then. I'll try 4 out this time.
You know what? Prove it, Stackin. Name 4 SEC guys. Name number 1 overall.
Thank you. Can't wait to get this wrong right now. It's going to get this one wrong again. But we'll start with Tim Couch.
Has he ever shit without a diaper on?
Yes, he has in the tub once.
Oh, in the tub?
Yes.
Once?
Yes. He's had a few poop explosions, but
nice.
So Tim Couch. That was a poop explosion if I ever saw one.
Yeah, you're not kidding. You're not kidding.
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning.
Wow, how did I forget about Peyton Manning?
Eli Manning.
Eli Manning to the Chargers.
And then
One more Jabron.
God, I should be able to get this one here. Oh. There's obviously got to be some Florida Gators. Or Georgia. Oh man, Matthew Stafford.
Yes.
Was Herschel Walker selected number 1 overall?
No.
Because he was
Cam
in
Newton.
the AFL, wasn't he? Or
could've
whatever
named-
it was called.
I could have named
USFL.
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton.
Jadavian Clowney.
Wow.
Jamarcus Russell.
Jamarcus. Yes. Bo Jackson. Myles Garrett.
Oh yes, of course.
Joe Namath.
Yep, Alabama.
Joe Namath was one I thought of early, and it was like, but I don't know, but I think he might have been.
So there we go. We'll award it to Charlie. Who was the last guy picked number 1 from a non-major conference?
Oh, that would be Fisher, Central Michigan, a few years back.
What
to the
a
Chiefs.
shitty draft that was. Oh my God.
Was it Mike Fisher? I think.
Eric Fisher?
Eric Fisher.
Did he
That
spell
was-
Eric weird?
Nope, it was normal. That was the shits.
And then it was the A&M guy, offensive lineman, that went 2, if I remember right.
Yeah, Luke Jokel.
Bad picking, man. Bad picking that year. Who was the last guy taken from an independent?
Number 1
Not-
overall.
Yeah. A team that was not in a conference.
Has it happened since Roger Staubach, or does Navy counts in the American Conference, or
Nope, at the time.
at the time?
Um,
Was Roger Staubach one, or was he?
This happened in the last 30 years.
Okay.
It's got to be a BYU quarterback. So I will say either Steve Young or Detmer.
Steve Young, I think, was taken by
Tampa.
the U. Or yeah, well,
Russell, Maryland, Miami 91. Apparently Miami was not in a conference in 91.
yeah, they weren't in a conference. Like if you look back on it, in the late '80s and early '90s, there were a whole bunch of
Penn
teams
State?
that were independent. They got like Miami and Penn State. I think Syracuse,
Weird.
maybe West Virginia.
Take me
Who was-
home.
Like all those Northeast teams that were not in the Big East for basketball were independent teams.
And the last guy not in a major conference or even Division I was 1974, defensive end from Tennessee State. He went to the Cowboys, Ed Too Tall Jones.
Oh.
Most famous for having Joe Montana throw the touchdown pass to Dwight Clark over his hands.
In fact, he wasn't tall enough. Some odd conferences, some odd picks. There you go. Zach, and you had a tweet I'm taking issue with?
What's that?
You had a tweet?
Yeah.
I'm taking issue with it?
Okay.
You said the schedule release is your favorite thing in the offseason?
It is, yes.
I would prefer the draft and free agency over the schedule.
Yep. No, I understand that. I just like to see the schedule,
You
see
like
the
it.
primetime games. Yep.
Surprising the Vikings aren't playing the first one. Yes.
Very surprised by that. I guess I get where the NFL is coming from, but
I don't.
Falcons Eagles to me does nothing. I get you maybe want to save Eagles Vikings for later in the year, but if you want to open up with a bang, hell, put Deshaun Watson in the Houston Texans there, or the Dallas Cowboys. That's sure to get a lot of attention. Dak versus Carson. If you want to do that, the Atlanta makes no sense to me. I know they played them in the playoffs, but a poor decision by the NFL for sure.
Can't be Giants Cowboys. I don't know. Is Giants Cowboys the first Sunday night game?
It is not. No, it's Bears Packers.
It seems
the
like for the
second
last
one,
8
though.
years that the Giants Cowboys is the Sunday night game in either week 1 or week 2.
It is week 2, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
What? The Bears are on Sunday night week 1 and Monday night week 2. The Bears should have 0 primetime games Why are they on twice in the first 2 weeks?
Why are the Jets on twice in the first 3 weeks?
This
Monday
is
night
bad.
and Thursday night.
We talked about it on the podcast.
To be fair, though, like I think you have to differentiate Monday night and Sunday night because Monday night doesn't get the good games anymore. It's Sunday night that gets the good ones. Monday night, Thursday night was one of the worst games. Monday night was a mediocre, nobody cares game, and Sunday night was a great one.
Yeah,
but
Packers Bears.
And the Packers only get it because it's their 100th year of football, and they wanted to, they requested a home primetime game, and they got it. But why wouldn't you put it like against Jimmy G and the 49ers or something like that?
Vikings Saints Sunday night. First week. I mean, what could you think of a worse game than Packers Bears? I mean, I don't care about the 100 years. Like, I don't like Packers Bears. Like,
pretty boring.
This rivalry that for me, like, I don't care about it. It's like non-existent because the Bears are never good.
Right. I don't think it's a rivalry that anybody outside of Packers or Bears fans care about.
Because the
they're rarely both good at the same time.
First time I remember the Bears being like good was like 01 or 02. They had a 13-3 year out of nowhere, and it was like, oh yeah, the Bears and Packers are rivals. I'm like, what? Like, I'm like 13 years old, and that's the first I ever heard of the Bears Packers rivalry. I'm like, what? They're rival? I know it's like calling the Vikings and Detroit rivals. They play in the same division, and the Vikings beat the shit out of them more times than not. But I don't consider Detroit a rival of the Vikings. They play like the Packers, yes. The Bears are just bad. You could have done a lot better.
Could have. I don't appreciate what the NFL did by giving the Vikings their 2 hardest games of the year, arguably on the road back-to-back weeks. Rams and Eagles. Rams on a short week. That's very painful. So that's not good. But they do have an easy final 3 games, in my opinion. No offense, Charlie, to your Dolphins. But
but I don't care.
Home to Miami, at Detroit, home to Chicago. I think that's a very nice 3-game stretch. I think they should start the year off 3-0, lose 2, and then we'll see where it goes from there. I do expect them to beat Green Bay in Green Bay, though, week 2.
I like the week 10 bye week. I like that.
I do too. I was like a later bye week. That's always good.
Yeah, what's the earliest one? Like week 6 or something like that?
Week 4, the Panthers and
that's ridiculous.
Something else.
Yeah, that's terrible. Like there should only be 3 weeks that are bye weeks too. It should be 8, 9, 10 or 9, 10, and 11. And those are your 3 weeks with byes. Because it's so dumb to end week 4. And then all right, well, now you need to play 13 games in a row. More than a college football season.
But that's why they also give you a third, they're going to give those teams that are on, that have an early bye week, a later Thursday night game. So they do get another mini bye.
Yeah, but that still means that late in the season, there's a week where it's okay, you got 3 days off until you got to play on Thursday, which is going to be terrible. And in some ways, the NFL is made up incredibly well, but in some ways they make dumb decisions. And I think having super early bye weeks is just dumb.
Falcons Saints on Thanksgiving night is good. Again, Bears Lions. Why are the Bears?
I don't get it. This is the worst trio of Thanksgiving Day games I think I can recall. And last year,
what are the Thanksgiving games?
Is Chicago at Detroit, Washington at Dallas, and Atlanta at New Orleans.
Yeah, that could be good, but doesn't do much for me.
But that's easily the best of the 3 games, and that's even a terrible. I thought Philadelphia at Dallas would make sense. You have the Super Bowl champions coming in. Why wouldn't you have New England go to Detroit? You face Matt Patricia again. Why throw the fucking Bears on the schedule? And then for Thursday night, I thought, hey, why not get that rivalry, Green Bay and Minnesota? I am fine with Atlanta and New Orleans. What I am not okay with is how many teams have 5 nationally televised games. and the Vikings aren't one of them, considering they are in the NFC Championship game, considering they had Kirk Cousins, who was the biggest free agent signing arguably of the NFL offseason. Like, why have Jimmy G and the 49ers have 5 primetime games?
People like them.
Well,
I'm not. San Francisco, I'm fine with, but the Bears, that's bad.
Well, the Bears, yeah, they have. I'm pulling up the Bears schedule right now.
Zero Monday.
Well, every team should have at least one primetime game. If that's
one Thursday night game, but Monday, very bad.
Like I'm very surprised that the Cardinals only got one primetime game. I mean, hell, even the Browns, the winless Browns, have a Saturday game on NFL Network and a Thursday game on the NFL Network. So your
best game appears to be what, Packers at Patriots.
Oh, well, I suppose.
Like if Rodgers is there, Brady is there, Packers are good. Patriots, Pittsburgh play again. But as far as the game that'll probably get the biggest rating, I would assume it's Packers at Patriots.
I think that's reasonable.
I would agree with that.
Assuming that both quarterbacks are healthy.
Assuming it's not Brett Hundley versus Brian Hoyer.
Here's the game I'm most excited for, and let's just pull it up here. It is not Minnesota at Philadelphia. Don't care about that one. They're gonna lose.
Browns Jets.
Yes. No.
Why don't they do it the week after the draft so that you know who the draft picks are? Like if it's Browns and Jets, that could be good if it's Sam Darnold against Baker Mayfield.
I agree.
Wait a week. Wait 1 week or 2.
Then I would up the draft a little bit then.
I'm fine with whatever.
This is what I think they should do. Like, they should make it so you know, like, what week, who plays who, way earlier than they do. Like, there's no reason for that to be only, like, 5 months at a time. But I think it's fair to wait longer to decide what games are going to be on at what time. That's completely okay. Like, I'm okay saying we want to wait till, well, like you said, I think it would be good to be like, oh, well, you know, I don't know. Because I haven't looked too closely at the schedule. But, you know, if Cleveland and New York play some week, then wait till after the draft's over, and it's like, oh yeah, these are the 2 rookie quarterbacks that are probably going to be playing each other. Then it's a little bit more interesting than if, you know, hypothetically, if the Browns and the Jets, which I don't know if they play each other anyways, but if it's like, oh yeah, actually the Browns took Bradley Chubb and the Jets took an offensive lineman, and now nobody cares anymore.
So week 1, I was constantly on Twitter, Pro Football Talk, just seeing like all these leaks that are coming out, and I hear, San Francisco is going to play Minnesota. I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe that's a 3:00 game. That would seem reasonable. You have Kirk Cousins against Jimmy Garoppolo. Makes a lot of sense. No, they're putting Dallas at Carolina as the marquee afternoon. Like, I don't even care about that. Who cares about Dallas and Dak Prescott against Cam Newton? Like, that's one team that didn't even make the playoffs last year versus a team that lost right away in the first round or on wild card weekend. I don't give a shit at all about that. I'm very interested, though, in 2 Eagles games this year. Eagles at Jaguars, week 8 from London. That's going to be outstanding.
Terrible.
The best game, though, that I'm looking forward to, just because I think this is a very potential Super Bowl preview, Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Houston Texans December 23rd, week 16. Mark it down, folks. That's going to be a great game.
San Francisco play New England or not?
They do not. No, they play Oakland on a Thursday night, so they play the AFC West.
The AFC East plays the NFC North. Also, who's ready for Charlie's hot take that maybe he'll change when we do our NFL preview, but it's leaning towards not changing right now.
Yep.
Hot take coming in. Philadelphia Eagles not going to the playoffs next year.
Ooh. I like it. Put me on board on that.
Because there's always like at least 2 teams. Like there's some teams that barely make the playoffs and you expect them to slide and it makes sense. But there's always at least 2 teams that everyone looks and thinks are going to be great. And whether it's injuries or something else, end up completely blowing up and not being good. And I feel like it might be the Eagles, and I feel worse about this next one, but I could see it being the Rams also. Or it's just like, yep, 8-8, didn't make it.
I will also take a hot take here. I am going to say that the Cardinals, Dolphins, and Jets all draft in the top 5 next year. That's what I'm looking at next year.
Cardinals, Dolphins, and who?
Jets.
I don't know if that's that hot of a take.
Okay.
I mean, maybe a little bit, but I wouldn't be stunned if that happened. At least with the Dolphins and the Jets, I wouldn't. I don't know much about the Cardinals. I don't know. The Cardinals are the NFC version of the Titans to me.
Sticking with my Niners, New England Super Bowl for the goddamn century.
Are you sure Tom Brady's coming back? Are you sure that?
I don't know. I'm pretty certain. Yeah, I think so. I looked at the Thursday night schedule. It wasn't terrible.
No, Thursday night's the new Monday night. It's considering how much money that Fox is giving.
Pick a week, Charlie. Just pick a week, and we'll see if the games are good or not.
7.
Week 7. October 18th. Broncos, Cardinals, Thursday night.
Nah.
Okay.
Not awful, but doesn't do much for me.
Giants, Falcons, Monday night.
Doesn't do much for me either.
Rams, Niners, Sunday night.
Rams, Niners is interesting.
Count me in on that. Stacking, could I maybe interest you in moving Houston, Jacksonville down maybe a little bit? Instead of fucking Falcons, Giants?
Yeah, yep. Nope, I'm all about that. Give me Texans, Jaguars.
Even Panthers, Eagles?
To quote Crins from 3 years ago, what was the one again? Did you say Panthers, Giants?
Texans, Jacksonville.
Or you were
what
saying
was the
the
one
Giants,
with the
Falcons,
Giants?
Giants, Falcons.
Giants, Falcons? Yeah, Giants, Falcons, to quote Crins from years ago, does not make me hard.
Jacksonville got the shaft sacking.
They did, but I think it's
Give them one. Can't you give them one? They got one?
They got one Sunday night game. They have 2 late afternoon slots. There was a lot of talk leading up to this because Jacksonville is the 43rd largest. So they just aren't that big of a draw. They looked back at the last 2 Monday night games that the Jaguars were on, and they were the 2 lowest rated Monday night games of the season. The good thing for the Jaguars is that you have very good marquee opponents coming in, like New England, which is week 2, 3 o'clock game. That's fine. You got Pittsburgh coming to town. That's a Sunday night game. The Eagles game, unfortunately, is going to be in London, but that's going to be, must-see TV, I think, for quite a few folks. So
the Eagles and the Jaguars play in London?
Yep. And I think the Texans and the Jaguars.
Man, congrats on both of your great seasons last year. Ha, you got to take this awful game in London.
It sucks.
Well, that was the London matchups though were determined before the regular season even ended.
Still,
this is my problem with the NFL schedule: is there's too many decisions made too soon. They're either making their decisions way too soon or way too late. Like, we should know what week what games are way earlier, but I think figuring out who goes to London and what time specific games are should be much, much later.
Like, what's the end game with London? They want a team there. That just isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
It just isn't going to happen. And people there don't seem to care about it because why would they? And it's an inconvenience, and the games are on at 9 in the morning, and nobody's watching.
Yeah.
Seems like a terrible idea.
I completely agree. If you want to do international stuff, you're far better off putting a team in either Mexico or Canada.
It's bad. Like, baseball went to Australia, which is bad. Japan is okay since at least there's players from Japan in the majors. And the Twins and Indians went to Puerto Rico, which is fine since there's plenty of players from Puerto Rico, and it's not that far away. But to go to London, you're wasting your time. It's a bad idea. Next week, I'm sure we'll recap the draft, talk more playoffs. I'm pretty sure
What if the Los Angeles Chargers move to Mexico City and become the Mexico City Chargers?
Fine with me. The only thing
I would say that, no, it'd be the Los Angeles or the Mexico City Cartels.
Wow.
True, we'd have to fix some stuff in Mexico before you're routinely. Yeah.
Despite the crime in Mexico City and such is not good. The one negative I have is the extreme elevation, or whether it's football or baseball.
Yeah, that's valid also.
It'd be like a Coors Field. It'd be like a Denver. So I don't like that. But
Mexico City, you could start seeing 70-yard field goals on occasion. Because in addition to being high, it would also be warmer than other places. I think balls don't generally travel as far when it's cold, so you would not necessarily have that problem in October or November where it's 40 degrees. It might still be a balmy 70. You might see a field goal from someone's own 38-yard line at the end of the half go in.
Something's up. I think last year we looked ahead to this year's draft and we saw Rosen and Darnold and Josh Allen. We saw all the quarterbacks, and they probably didn't – I would say all of them had worse years. So that kind of disappointed things, but they're all going to go in the top 10. Just one mock draft here I've got up for next year. They got Shea Patterson, the Ole Miss quarterback, who's going to be at Michigan going number 1.
Who may not even be eligible to play this fall because they haven't figured that out yet.
Obviously, Ed Oliver, he's been highly touted for a long time.
That makes sense.
I'm sure he'll be a top 3 pick. Other guys, apparently there's a quarterback from Northwestern.
Clayton Thorson,
what?
Trust me, Clayton Thorson. He's what's the Minnesota Gophers quarterback who ended up not?
Mitch Leidner.
Clayton Thorson's better than Mitch Leidner, but he's not going to go in the first round.
Like, what is this? Wow.
Like, he's okay. He's big. I don't know if he has a cannon for an arm. He doesn't have a weak arm. But, like, I've watched Northwestern play plenty, and while he's fine, that's –
And when he got hurt, I think, in the bowl game, so we'll have to come back from that. Nick Bosa, you know of him.
That makes sense.
A.J. Brown, a wide receiver from Ole Miss. Rashawn, you've heard of this guy, Rashawn Gary from Michigan, defensive lineman.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
Yeah, quarterback.
Does it have Will Greer from West Virginia or no?
Yeah, for this one, I haven't seen it yet.
Because if you don't have Greer going high, I think that's fair and reasonable, but it seems dumb that you'd have Clayton Thorson on there and not Greer, who – I mean, I get that you play in the Big 12 and maybe defenses aren't as good, but like at least when you watch him, it's like, oh yeah, this guy's pretty good, as opposed to Clayton Thorson, where it's like, I don't know, he's okay.
Yeah, I could see maybe quarterback next year looks bad, and quarterback this year there's 5 or 6 guys that can maybe go in the top in the first round. So maybe you get your quarterback this year because next year there's nobody. Quarterback from Missouri, Drew Lock. Luckily, there's a linebacker from Kentucky also named Josh Allen, so that'll be fantastic. There.
We'll see how Missouri's Drew Lock does. His offensive coordinator was Josh Heupel, who was pretty good and left to be the head coach at Central Florida. Does anybody know who Missouri replaced him with as the offensive coordinator? It is a guy if you know who he is, you would know from his head coaching days. He is a guy who did not do well as a head coach and has never been a coordinator before. And they're like, oh yeah, let's have this guy be the offensive coordinator for our potential, one last year with this guy.
Is it?
Is an SEC school he was the head coach of within the last 8 years, maybe 6 years even. Name an SEC school who this is like over the last 30 years, this is one of the better SEC schools. They have not been as good as they want to be recently.
Florida.
It's not Florida.
LSU. Les Miles.
Nope. Florida was a closer guess than LSU. It's that division.
Georgia.
Arkansas.
It's not Georgia or Arkansas.
South Carolina.
Further west than South Carolina, I think.
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Butch Jones. Butch Jones.
No.
Not Butch Jones. Who was the coach before Butch Jones at Tennessee? Derek Dooley.
The fuck are we doing?
The offensive coordinator from Missouri.
Christ.
Never been a coordinator, and I think was the Dallas Cowboys receivers coach. Like
You're like the
last
Dallas
years.
Cowboys cord holder guy.
Yeah, and now he's I'm not a Missouri expert. I saw Drew Lock play some, and I think he's good, but I would imagine like the offensive success Missouri had last year is not going to be to the same degree this year.
Stack, and there's a guy out here I think you're going to like a whole hell of a lot.
Jake
Probably
Weineke.
top. No,
Taryn Christian.
for next year. Top running back on the board. Bryce Love from
Yes.
Stanford.
Give me some love.
Give him
Stackett
some.
loves him some Bryce Love.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how guys like Will Greer, we'll see how Jared Stidham does at Auburn. We'll see if guys we've never heard of that come out of nowhere.
Yeah, there's going to be at least one or two guys who are redshirt sophomores or juniors right now who either didn't start last year or only started and were okay that are going to blow up and end up going pro early.
So there we go. Next year's draft. We'll have next year's mock draft next week. Be prepared for that. Draft and such. Baby talk as well. Nathan Stack and Martha Straxer, Charlie Hildebrand. We'll see you next week for Lounge 250.